Hey, good evening. Happy New Year. I'm calling the planning board meeting of January 12th, 2026 to order at 7:01 p.m. This is being conducted via Zoom, but it can be accessed via our agenda. There's also a simple call-in number at the bottom of our agenda as well that can be accessed. Okay, nice to see everybody. Take a roll call as I see you. Rich Gazzardi.
Gazzardi present.
Thank you. Cindy Markowitz.
Markowitz present.
Mark White.
White present.
Chris Dowdy.
Dowdy present.
And Werner present. Thank you. Okay, 7 o'clock. I'd like to invite any members of the public that are on the call tonight, if they want to speak or ask any questions about anything in particular that's not listed on the agenda. Please go ahead and raise your hand. You can also press *9 if you can't access the Zoom feature. Okay, and I'm not seeing any hands raised. Alec, why don't we tick off with some meeting minutes? We got a lot of them.
Sounds great. Yes, we do have a few. I wanted to thank real quick on the recording Mary and Kristen for hammering away a bunch of those. We had a busy fall. Good to get caught up. Starting with October 14th, I will note, I don't know that this one was included in your packet till today, but you'll see that it is a very, very simple set of minutes, specifically from the 6 p.m. meeting you had immediately before special town meeting.
Alec, if it wasn't in today, do you think we could just hold this till next time? And we do have a number of other many minutes to go through.
Absolutely. That would bring us to October 20th.
Okay. Does anybody have comments on the October 20th
I do not.
Meeting minutes?
I do not.
I had a minor comment on the line 9. Attorney Adam Costa, he's actually special land use counsel. I don't know if that, I think we should just correct that, not town council. And on line 31, the hearing notice, maybe it was transposed incorrectly, but it showed 894 Mass Ave. It should have been 984 Mass Ave. I don't know if that was just a transposition error. Line 37 is Paul Robertson, attorney for the, instead of submitting party, I suggest applicant. Let's see. Line 80, I would insert before the word based upon, I would say according to attorney Robertson, comma, based upon that written opinion. Just to attribute that correctly. Line 109, the word to should come after the word repairs. It says intends to do some repairs to save the structure. Hopefully my lines are lining up. Line 113 should say file with the Conservation Commission. I think the word commission was left off, and the word the was left off.
Cindy, where is that?
That was line 113.
Yeah, I don't know why yours don't line up.
Oh, well, I save these and then do my own track changes. So did you find that line?
I'm not finding it right off the bat. Cindy, if you want to send me the Word version of your minutes, I can import those. Is there anything substantive, or are they all spelling and administrative like this?
I think that was all I had.
Okay. Those all sound fairly administrative. If you want to send those over, regardless of the line numbers, I can go ahead and adapt those changes before we post them.
Okay.
I just have a couple of quick changes. Line 148, the last word should be plural, properties. And then line 150, 151, My concern was also with the potential for leaching into the groundwater and surrounding wetlands. So I'd like to add that. I think that's it for me on that. Terrific. Anyone else? Okay, hearing nothing, I would entertain a motion to approve the October 20th, 2025 meeting minutes as amended.
So moved.
Thank you, Rich. Do I have a second? Okay, moved by Rich, seconded by Cindy. Roll call as I see you, Mark White.
I'll abstain because I was recused from that meeting, pretty much all of it.
Okay, Chris Dowdy.
I was just going to ask, do we need to massage the wording of the motion to let Alec make administrative copy edits?
No.
Okay, then yeah, I'm good. Dowdy, aye.
Rich Gazzardi.
Gazzardi, aye.
Cindy Markowitz.
Markowitz, aye.
And Werner, aye. Okay, thank you. We got through one. So noting that it's 7:07 p.m., we can open or continue the public hearing for Beaverbrook Road OSCD special permit in accordance with MGL Chapter 40A in the Boxborough Zoning Bylaw 7.5 Open Space Commercial Development and 2.3 Special Permits. The Boxborough Planning Board will conduct a public hearing to review the application submitted by property owner Campanelli Trigate Sub LLC to amend OSCD 97-01 and OSCD 01-01. So to start this off, I'd like to go ahead and see if there's any public comment related to this particular hearing. If so, raise your hand, please. Okay, I'm seeing none. Alec, I'm going to toss this over to you first because the board received, I think, 5 versions of this decision, and it was a lot, right? So I'm sure you were trying to be very transparent with your process by showing us every step of the way. But I have to admit, it was a lot to absorb and try to cross-reference and try to track comments. It was kind of hard to tell where the comments were coming from sometimes. And so I wonder if you could just describe your process and kind of what's been going behind the scenes for the board before we jump into, we'd like to know where we are right now, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
thank you, Madam Chairperson. So after the board's last meeting, which was, if I remember correctly, December 1st, so first of the last month prior to the new year, we had resolved a variety of comments that had been left on the document. There were still some outstanding items for proofing with legal counsel, and I myself had a lot of cleanup to do from all the red lines we had made over the course of the last several public hearing sessions. So between December 1st and December 18th, I went through, cleaned up those red lines, evaluated each section to confirm if there was any additional outstanding comment from either town council or the applicant, or sorry, especially land use council or the applicant, made specific note of those items. And on December 19th, circulated copies of that draft decision. So it was a draft decision with the remaining red lines and notes for councils, as well as a couple highlights just where the board still needed to render its decision, namely the length of the development period. Of particular note, there were a couple conditions that needed word changes. There were a couple findings that we had asked Attorney Costa to review and consider for consolidation, if not outright removal. And there were a couple remaining board comments. Simultaneously, a member of the board, Board Member Markowitz, did have a couple questions for Special Land Use Council. Those were forwarded on and responses were forwarded back to the board and provided to the applicant afterwards. On January 5th, the applicant's team provided some responses, cleaning up some additional language, namely around traffic, as well as providing commentary on some remaining conditions and items. Later that week, Attorney Costa provided both a clean and red line version of the decision in its final format, back to the board. So the copies you received on Friday, as noted, were the most recent and up to date. Those represent a clean version of the decision. I will ask, before we go too far, I will of course ask if the applicant has any additional comments or questions they want to raise before we dive into the real meat of your meeting tonight, which will be the development period, whether that's any of the findings or the conditions. But you have both a clean and a minimally redlined copy, those representing a what I call final draft of your decision, save for any changes you may make tonight. We had a good month and a half to tackle this. Chipped away, a real team effort. So thank you to Attorney Costa and Attorney Schneider for working through that, and glad we get to this point for you. So, Madam Chairperson, if you have any questions about the substance of the decision, between the three of us, we should be able to answer just about anything.
Okay, yeah, before we turn it over to the applicant, I just want to just make sure that, so the clean version that came, I know it was labeled 8 from Attorney Costa, that's the most recent version, right? That's what, okay, thank God, because that's the one I was working off of.
That's the one I read. That's the one.
I mean,
That's
I was
correct.
trying to cross-reference things back and forth just because I noticed changes that were new to me that I hadn't even seen in the decision. And I was kind of trying to piece together where did those things come from, because I don't recall us being part of that discussion. So I guess it would be helpful for me, and board members, please speak up. I mean, so I understood that we were going to send this off to you, Alec. You were going to clean it up based on all of the great feedback and the diligent hours that the planning board put into getting all of that completed last hearing, and that you were going to run that by our attorney, Costa. I was unaware that it was going to the applicant at the same time. So I guess what I would like to understand is what was the additional feedback that we got from the applicant? Because there's chunks there's pieces of information in that document that is new to me altogether. So I just, if you could walk us through kind of what the applicant changed or suggested changing, that would be helpful for me.
Absolutely. Good comment, Madam Chairperson. So just for clarification, both for the board and members of the public, when we deliver a midpoint deliverable like this to the board as a whole, that document becomes a matter of public record. And so as not to run afoul of open meeting law, we do also release that to the applicant, and then shortly thereafter post that on the website so it's available to the public. Hence why the applicant's attorney was also weighing in. Further, and candidly, there were some items that would have taken me additional hours to do research on, where I knew the applicant did have immediate information available to them. So, Attorney Schneider, would you want to help me with this part? I was originally going to pull up just the most recent clean copy, but I'm wondering if it makes sense to go back a draft to red lines from January 5th. Do we want to walk through that one?
Madam Chair, if I may respond to Alec's question.
Go ahead, Johanna. Yeah.
Alec, my concern with going back to January 5th is that I'm not sure that it will provide the board with the benefit of Attorney Costa's comments, because I think his comments were only just received toward the end of last week. Obviously, I'll do whatever you and the board would like. And if it's helpful, we can add some flavor as we go along. But I'm a little bit concerned about going back too far, because the draft has evolved since then as a result of special town councils or land use council's comments.
Yes, bear with me. I can pull that one up. That's a good point. Adam Costa's red line should also have your comments and items, or the outstanding items. So bear with me.
I don't want to go through, like, if it's not substantial enough to talk about, let's try to save the air in the room. So, but I just want to understand any kind of larger changes or revisions, because, I would have preferred probably having this discussion in a hearing setting where it could have been a discussion and something that the board could have understood, I guess, the changes as we were going through them.
Absolutely. Let's do. I think the most pertinent and the largest element here is specifically related to the transportation component. Otherwise, everything else is summarized in Attorney Costa's version, which we'll be working off of later tonight. So why don't I jump over to that section, and Attorney Schneider, you can expand on that and share the substance of it, only because that is a rather meaty chunk of the section. So bear with me, bring this up now. So this is notably under item B, traffic flow and safety. The applicant was asked to make several changes and revisions to the section, or at least to review it, at which point they went in and added clarifying language to the findings from the MEPR review and such.
Yeah, and I will just comment, we didn't really draft anything new here. What Alec had asked us to do was to confirm or to correct the drafted summary of the section 61 findings. And so what I did is I went back and I compared what was sort of a summary of, a high level summary of the actual language of the section 61 findings. And I added some details to make sure that that the recounting of what's in those section 61 findings was complete.
Go ahead, Cindy.
So I guess what I was struggling with was understanding the version that we finished on December 1. We never saw an updated version of that. I think there's a reference to a December 19th version. I don't know that the board ever got that. What Attorney Schneider just mentioned sounds like she created some kind of a red line, and I don't know that we saw that. So I appreciate that, any substantive changes I'm sure will get called out, but it was very frustrating to try to go back and understand what happened since the December 1st edits. And I was also trying to go back and do a side by side. But we have 8-9 versions now. Even the Adam Costa clean version came in at version 8. Alec, I think you might have renumbered it version 9. So my head was spinning, and I'm trying to do the best I could. But it was very frustrating, and I hope that as we go through the decision tonight, any substantive changes that got made will be called out, because it was just too hard to try and go back and recreate where we were.
Yep, absolutely. And for reference, everybody, so we had a December 19th draft. It was sent to the board on December 22nd. So right before the holiday season, entirely understandable. That one myself, I was eager to get out the door and then probably forgot about. And then we did have changes, as I noted, on January 5th that were included on your packet for January 8th. So that's just the timeline of items, but understand that we definitely threw a lot at you. So thank you for your patience, and we'll make sure to call out any substantive changes to you tonight.
Go ahead, Rich.
Yeah, I don't know what the confusion is. Alec, you didn't there's a lot of versions, but the message to me was pretty clear. You consolidated something. You provided that to the attorneys from the applicant, and then that went to Adam Costa. I reviewed the version from Adam Costa. I'm good with it. We can go through there. I have some clarification languages and things like that, but unless I'm lost, there's no reason to go back and look at the 8 copies, is there? I thought it was all consolidated into this one copy.
Rich, I don't think anybody's suggesting going back and looking at the 8 copies. I think we're all relieved that the one that we looked at was the one that we were supposed to look at. It was just confusing that we got so many, and it was tough to track what the process was. So that's why I asked Alec to speak to that up front.
All right. So, at this point, from my perspective, I'm looking at I looked at the right one. It was the one that Adam commented on. It included Attorney Schneider's comments, right? So that's what we're working with. Yes?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll make sure I got it.
Okay, Alec, are you going to bring that up again, please?
Yes, absolutely. Madam Chairperson, just one last item. Do we want to work off of the clean version, or do we want to walk through Adam's responses?
I think, unless others think differently, maybe opening the question and answer, or maybe the comments, because I guess that would help walk through what Attorney Schneider has suggested as well, and we can see the recommendations. I mean, I read through all of his comments. They seemed more or less straightforward to me, so we could probably cruise through those pretty quickly, I would think.
Absolutely.
And,
Right.
And in the packet, that's the one called version 9 with AJC comments redlined.
Yes, that's correct.
Just make sure I have the right things open. Thanks.
Yep. All right. So there was a note here regarding the parcels and whether or not the removal of certain parcels, either through donation to the town or through donation to the Harvard Conservation Trust, whether that would ultimately affect the applicant's calculations and whether it would impact their potential development. Attorney Costa, do you want to speak to this comment?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So yes, I mean, this is not unusual in the context of an open space commercial development, an open space residential development, any sort of development that contemplates the issuance of some kind of a master special permit. Not unusual for there to be land within the development plan that is either going to be conveyed to the municipality, sometimes conveyed to a conservation commission or an open space commission. Other times, maybe the ownership will be retained, but there'll be a conservation restriction or open space restriction placed on the property, which might be held by a municipal entity or a nonprofit entity. The general rule is that that land can continue to count toward the development plan for purposes of everything from the issuance of an approval, like what's before you, to the calculations that are sort of part and parcel of that approval. Areas of open space, lot coverage percentages, potential development potential in terms of density. So I don't have any issue with these properties continuing to be included as part of the development plan, but the property continues to be subject to the permit. So there could be no future development in a manner that would be inconsistent with the permit. Now, that's not really a problem here, but I've had cases in the past where that land, isn't conveyed to the city or town, but is retained by the developer, and 10 years go by and it gets sold off to a different developer, and then there's a future attempt to do something additional with that land. That can't be the case if the land is being utilized for purposes of calculating zoning compliance in accordance with this open space commercial development special permit.
Okay. Thank you, Attorney Costa.
Sure.
All right. So there had been some discussion within this section about how we calculate the by right alternative. And there had been some discussion. I had asked that Attorney Costa respond here. Attorney Schneider did so as well. Attorney Costa, do you want to walk us through your opinion here?
Sure. So Johanna sort of got to this one before I did and confirmed. So the question was sort of premised on, what this number, this 447,300 square feet of development is comprised of. And so Cindy's question was, I'll just read it, although you're looking at it. The applicant didn't provide the amount of development that could be constructed by right in their application. However, the SEIR did show a by right alternative and had this figure of 447,300 square feet of development. And then Cindy noted that presumably included some two-story buildings. Johanna responded and said that the SEIR is correct and that is a footprint calculation, and where the applicant is proposing as part of the application that's before you, the proposal that's before you, 446,000 square feet of development, that is less than the 447,300 square feet of development that would be the by right option under the SEIR. So, I have no reason to doubt those numbers. I've not done an independent calculation myself based on the plans, but presuming that those numbers are correct, then I think Johanna's effectively answered the question. Curiously, there's nothing within the language of section 7.5.5 of your zoning bylaw that differentiates between footprint and total square footage. So that's, I think, maybe the reason or what prompted Cindy's question, and rightfully so. The bylaw's a bit vague.
Thank you, Attorney Costa. Go ahead, Cindy.
Yeah, I was looking back at the prior decision 0101, and there was a, I'm trying to, again, I'm flipping back and forth here, but there was a reference about a deed restriction limiting the development to a maximum amount. And I'm just wondering, do we need to have a similar condition here to reflect that? Or have we already captured it somewhere? Again, the language is kind of, it mentions it earlier on about the 667,000 square feet, but in the prior decision, there was a limitation or actual requirement for a deed restriction limiting the amount of development on the site to X amount. That was condition 3.10. So I'm just curious whether we, or should we be putting in a similar condition on this, limiting, maxing out the amount of square foot development.
Through you, Madam Chair.
Oh, yes, please go ahead, Adam.
So I don't know if there's any harm in doing that if the applicant is amenable to it. I mean, the applicant's made representations that the proposal is for 446,000 square feet of proposed development. That comes in under the by right option, which would provide for 447,300 square feet. My recollection is that it is referenced at least twice in this decision, although so that I don't have too many screens open at the same time, I'm looking at what Alec has shared by Zoom, and so I can't really scroll here, but my recollection is that there is another reference elsewhere further along in the decision to this 446,000 square feet. That is a representation upon which the board is relying. It is a bylaw requirement. Without satisfying that requirement, the OSCD special permit couldn't issue. So as a general rule, boards don't typically identify every threshold that would qualify an applicant for a special permit or a variance or a site plan approval and make an affirmative finding and condition it on continued compliance. But again, there's no harm in doing so. I think that one way or the other, whether you state it as an explicit condition or not, it's a requirement of the bylaw. The only way that this special permit is issued is if you've determined there to be compliance. This sentence here says that you have determined there to be compliance, and if the applicant in the future were to attempt to develop 475,000 square feet of commercial space, you would have basis with this decision alone, even in the absence of an explicit condition, to pursue zoning enforcement for non-compliance with the bylaw and the representations that were made to the board as a precondition of issuing this special permit.
Thank you, Adam. Rich.
Yeah, that other reference is on page 5, applicant's proposal, second bullet. The plan includes 5 new buildings for a total maximum building footprint of 446,000 square feet and optional mezzanine space up to 221,500, broken down as follows. So it is a part of the proposal. And I guess this is and maybe you've answered the question, Attorney Costa, but like in my mind, I'm reading things like called proposals, things called findings, and all these things that set out what it is. I'm hopeful that, and Cindy, I appreciate your point, but I'm hopeful that we don't have to capture all that again in a condition, because if it's their proposal that we're signing off on as part of this decision, that's it, right? That's the limiter. I hope I'm right with that.
So I think that you are, through you, Madam Chair, if I could. So I think you are correct in saying so. I will tell you this for what it's worth, and I think it is unnecessary, but to the extent it provides the board with a certain degree of comfort, you could incorporate a sort of standard condition. I don't think it's included within this decision. I have a couple of other boards, one in particular that had got burned once a number of years ago by an applicant that made certain representations and that didn't carry through with those commitments and representations, and the issue got worked out and the violation didn't persist. But it sort of made the board especially cautious about, okay, what's being represented to us, and do we then need to document that in the decision? Because as you can appreciate, with any application, especially an application for a proposal as comprehensive as this, the decision issues, the decision gets recorded, but all of the supporting documentation, all the submittals that have been made to the planning board as part of the application process and the multiple public hearings, those get filed away somewhere in town hall. And in 5 years or 10 years or 15 years, when there's a question about, okay, it says this, it says that, those supporting documents are not always easily accessible. And so in this other community, I have sort of a standard condition that I drafted for them that indicates that the project needs to be constructed in substantial conformance with not just the documents and the plans that have been submitted, but all verbal representations that have been made and anything else that may be documented as part of the public hearing process. And so you could incorporate that kind of a condition. Again, this is an express finding here. So if you were to hand a decision like this to me in 5 years in its current form and say, Johanna's client is not in compliance because they're building out 475,000 square feet of commercial space, what do we do? Do we have grounds for pursuing enforcement? I would tell you, based upon what you're looking at on the screen here, that yes, you have grounds for enforcement.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if I may, just again, as you can tell from the questions that I submitted to Attorney Costa, I went back to review the prior 2 decisions, and I was trying to mirror any language to make sure something didn't get lost. So it was really more of a belt and suspenders question. And when I saw that it was a condition of the last permit, that it be part of a deed restriction, that felt, solid to me. But I certainly will defer if the Attorney Costa feels we have enough in here. I'm okay with that. I just, again, trying to be as thorough and useful for the future boards who are reading these things to have those clearly spelled out.
Thanks, Cindy. Johanna.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just chiming in briefly, obviously, as has already been discussed, this permit does authorize us to build up to what we have proposed to build, and it is a record document. If the board wishes to incorporate some sort of condition along the lines that Attorney Costa outlined, just saying we've got to comply with the terms of the permit and the plans, I don't think we have an issue with that. In terms of having a separate standalone deed restriction, I would find that to be quite unusual in my experience, and something like this sort of belt and suspenders approach typically, again, in my experience, and Attorney Costa, you may have a different experience, but normally it would be captured in the conditions in the board's decision, which is a record document, rather than having a separate standalone deed restriction.
Thank you, Attorney Schneider. Okay. Sounds like we're able to.
Can I just follow up on that? So if we were to write a condition, just noting the amount of limiting the development on the site to whatever the total square footage is, would the board be, amenable to that, just to sort of close this loop?
If we were to do a condition on what that Attorney Costa described?
Yes, limiting the, identifying the amount of total construction associated with the master plan to whatever the 667,000 number is.
I'd be supportive of what Attorney Costa proposed. Cindy, my only hesitation is there are a lot of things we say in this, and I'd hate to have in the condition where we captured 2 of them but didn't capture 5 of them. So I'd rather have just a general condition like Attorney Costa described, that the applicant will be in compliance with all of the terms of its application, its representations, et cetera, whatever that language is. I'd be supportive of that.
Okay.
Me too.
Can we add that language if it's not already in here, which I don't think it is?
Attorney Costa, I've made a note here roughly with the language that you described, but when we get to the conditions, I'll pipe back up if you want to give us the explicit language then.
Sure.
All right, thank you.
You've highlighted it, Alec, in the document someplace?
Yes, I have my little note card here going with all my items before we close this.
Okay, terrific. Okay, is the board comfortable moving to the next comment?
Yep.
Yes.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Okay, there had been a note here about the self-certification. Attorney Costa did provide a condition that would address this, condition number 18. We'll get to that at the back end. That'll be shown in red line. This section, we had left a note to have Attorney Costa both revise it, and then Attorney Schneider had offered some, apologies, my screen blanked out there for a second, some feedback, and Attorney Costa revised it consistent with his advice to date. And I believe there is a further explanation of it here. Attorney Costa, if you want to speak to this.
I'm just trying to refresh my recollection as to what I said here. So, right. So I think that this comment here addresses less so my redlined edits to the paragraph above, which I think are sort of self-explanatory, and more so my striking of the additional criteria and my response to Alex's comment above that he and I had discussed early on in this process a number of months ago. The fact that these additional criteria were not necessary to be reviewed at this stage in the process. So there will be site plan approvals because your trigger for site plan approval is so comprehensive in Boxborough. There are communities where there are various types of non-residential construction that wouldn't necessarily require site plan approval. That's not the case in Boxborough. Any kind of non-residential construction is going to require site plan approval. So there is nothing further that can be done on this Park at Beaver Brook site without site plan approvals, applications being submitted and hearings conducted and decisions issuing. So evaluating the site plan approval criteria will occur at that stage in the process on a project by project basis. At the same time, you can confirm things like dimensional compliance and satisfaction of parking criteria. And frankly, I don't know how you would even do some of those things at this stage in the process in light of the fact that you're issuing sort of a conceptual master permit that isn't based upon the sort of particular details that you'll expect to get from the applicant when they come before you on a project by project basis. So you're not relinquishing any of this authority. You have the authority under the bylaw. You're just not applying these standards yet because, number one, you don't need to. Number two, I'm not even sure you have enough information to do so if you wanted to.
Alec, before you leave that screen, whose red lines are those just above that section? Yeah, that's in orange there.
Those should represent Adam's red lines.
Those are mine.
Okay, thank you.
Right. There had been a question on floor area ratio. This is related back to our previous discussion. Attorney Costa did address it up above. Then Attorney Costa, it appears you left this section, but did make some red lines. This was a reference to the previous decision and some of the project history. Do you want to speak to the retention of this?
Sure. So I sort of deferred this one to the discretion of the board because your question isn't so much a legal question. I think the question was, do we keep it? Do we get rid of it? What do we do with it? And do I think it's strictly necessary? I don't. It's providing a bit of additional context as to what happened back in 1997 with Decision 9701. It's referring to a couple of aspects of that decision, one of which is the commercial development period and explaining a bit as to how that came to be. Also talked about the requirement of restrictive covenant or other protections on the recreational or conservation land. None of it is required because it's only for context, but that's not to say that it's prohibited or that it's necessarily a bad idea. I think if there is somebody who is entirely unfamiliar with the permitting history of this project and didn't have the other decisions before them, then this would be helpful. Having said that, this is an amendment decision, and typically amendment decisions are simple because they're building upon prior decisions, and so you wouldn't recount or incorporate everything from a prior decision. You would only address the aspects of the project or the proposal or the concept that are changing. So this is really a matter for the board's discretion. Keep it, don't keep it. From my perspective, from a legal perspective, it doesn't matter.
So, Madam Chairperson, it appears this is kicked back to the board. Would you like to retain this section?
Lots of members from the board.
I guess I just want to make sure that the terms that are used, if they're used later, that we define them. I mean, I'm okay with striking this as long as we've got restrictive covenant in there, we've got commercial development. I mean, have we defined those above or below? I just want to make sure they get defined if we reference back.
If this is
I mean,
if they're defined in the original decision, the same definition holds, right?
Well, we're going to redefine potentially the commercial development period. So again, without seeing all the language right now after it, I just want to understand it. There's something introduced here that we reference later. I just want to make sure we make sure to introduce it later if we delete this.
and maybe Attorney Schneider can just let us know, but I mean, I'm assuming that might be verbiage left over from the original document.
In drafting it, Madam Chair, we did make a deliberate decision to import it over just to provide that context that Attorney Costa was referencing. I agree with his analysis, though. It is not, as a legal matter, necessary, and I think that we are neutral as between the two options. Again, we put it in just, to provide a little of that background and to kind of show that this approach that we are suggesting here is consistent with the way that this park has been permitted in the past. But again, we don't feel strongly about it being retained or being cut.
Mark, did you have a comment? I saw your hand up.
I did. Well, I guess we've had Adam, our attorney, with us in this from the beginning, and one thing I've learned in my own life is take your attorney's advice. And if your attorney says you don't need it, then typically I'll pull it out. And if he says you need it, then typically I would opt to put it in. So I think we've paid Adam an awful lot of money to be here. He spent a lot of time on this. And I would take his advice and say, if it's not necessary, don't put it there. Because all this does reference an earlier decision that we're not about to basically delete and create a new decision in its place. We're simply modifying or amending the old decision. So you don't need to restate things that are already there. So I guess my inclination is to take our attorney's advice, strike that section, and move on.
Thanks, Mark. I would maybe suggest the opposite, just in the interest of time here. We're getting some wicked feedback. Does anybody know what that is? Okay, it just stopped. In the interest of moving this thing forward, I guess, and not dissecting this whole paragraph and cross-referencing, making sure everything's defined, I just get a little nervous about making a quick move like that without doing something like that. So that's my 2 cents. And if it doesn't matter if we keep it in or not, then I'd say let's keep it for now, just to keep things moving forward.
I guess I agree with you, Rebecca, just so something doesn't get deleted that we don't want to lose.
I'm indifferent. I mean, I think the Attorney Costa said it. So
Yeah, largely indifferent. In general, brevity is preferred, but if there's contextual reasons where it's helpful, sure. I don't care. So I guess the wins, just leave it as is.
Mark, are you okay with that? I think you're the only
I don't have any objections. It's just, again, I believe that less is more generally in documents because they're already tough enough to read through as it is. So you're just making, again, restating the obvious, I think, is redundant. But have it your way.
Okay, Alec, I think we're saying let's hold it for now. We can move on to the next.
Sounds great. So the next item, Attorney Costa made revisions to this section. I'll summarize this one pretty briefly. It was simply to capture the declaration of restriction followed by the formal conservation restriction, noting the correct offices, the abbreviations and such. And then, of course, this ties into the conditions that appear later on in your decision. So really just table setting for that element. This section here, I have highlighted and I've left a note. This does not require Attorney Costa's response, but this is a note of the two items or the two development periods that were being discussed at the end of your last meeting. Of course, that will be a robust discussion immediately to follow this portion. So that way you can make those finalizations. Attorney Costa finalized this section 5 here. This was the one where there had been some reference to building codes and items. And so he simply reviewed and ensured that there was no overlap in jurisdiction while still preserving the board's intent with the section itself. And then we dive into the conditions. Of course, these are where a lot of the teeth of your decision come in any case. Attorney Costa made immediate revisions to this section. Notably, I remind myself, this was lot 100, the land to be donated to the town. Attorney Costa, is there anything that you think warrants some of the description here or further description from your red lines? Oh, Attorney Costa, sorry about that. You are muted.
There you go. That's what happens when I think the feedback is my fault. So yes, there is something I'd like to add, and it relates, I guess, to the last sentence, what is not highlighted in blue. I think my early on red line or orange line revisions are fairly self-explanatory, but the last sentence is my attempt to sort of capture what occurs in the event that the town doesn't accept ownership of lot 100. And I know that that's not anticipated, and I may have made this comment at the last session of the public hearing, but generally boards are concerned because you can't control what town meeting does or doesn't do. And so while you can say in a decision that the applicant shall be required to convey lot 100, and you can establish the appropriate timing for conveyance, and you can require an additional gift of $25,000 for purposes of or to be utilized in connection with the future use of lot 100. The money can get accepted by the town because that doesn't require town meeting action, but it does require select board action. But the actual acceptance of an interest in real estate does require a town meeting vote. And so what happens if town meeting doesn't support that acquisition? What then occurs with lot 100? So my language here says, should the aforementioned prerequisites to the town's acceptance of lot 100, that would be things like the allowance, acceptance, approval of all necessary town boards, agencies, officials, as stated up above, if those preconditions aren't satisfied after reasonable and diligent efforts by the applicant, but in no event later than blank, the applicant shall submit to the board in the form of an amendment to this decision an alternative proposal for lot 100 that will carry forth the board's intent, which of course is to preserve lot 100 in perpetuity for conservation or recreation purposes. So that could be the applicant coming forward and saying, we're going to continue to hold it, we'll continue to own it, but we'll place a conservation or open space restriction on it. Or we found a third-party nonprofit organization to which we will convey it with a restriction that it never be developed and it be maintained for these purposes, since the town doesn't want it or won't accept it. So we sort of leave that, or I leave that in the language I've used here, to the applicant to decide what that proposal might be. But I require first reasonable and diligent efforts by the applicant to try and facilitate a transfer of lot 100 to the town. But there does need to be some deadline. Otherwise, the applicant could just say forever that it is continuing on with its reasonable and diligent efforts. And in the meantime, you're sort of in this world of uncertainty with respect to lot 100. So I do suggest that you choose a drop dead date, and I do suggest that it be far enough out that it provides an opportunity for these reasonable and diligent efforts to occur. Again, in large part because town meeting action is required, and as you know, that's a once, maybe twice a year occurrence.
So, Madam Chairperson, I would recommend to the board that you consider a 5-year or a 10-year window, somewhere in that range. That would provide time for the Office of Land Use and Permitting to conduct the public engagement we've discussed previously between the Recreation Commission, the Conservation Commission, and any other interested entities, as well as time to bring a proposal forward to you and to annual town meeting. Ultimately, it's left to your discretion, but my recommendation to advance the conversation is 5 years or 10 years, somewhere in that window.
Cindy, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to tack on, I think the applicant had offered in one of their communications to remove invasive species before the lot was conveyed to the town and in coordination with the Conservation Commission. So if that, I'd like to add that language here, and then given that can take a little bit of time, I was going to say a 3 to 5 year window seems kind of reasonable to me. I don't know that I want to hang it out there for 10 years, but between 3 and 5 years with the add-on, as agreed by the applicant, all invasive species shall be removed from lot 100 prior to the conveyance and in coordination with the Conservation Commission. But I would suggest a 3 to 5 year window. If Alec recommends 5, I'd be okay with that.
Other board members? Go ahead, Rich.
Yeah, I mean, if this takes us more than one town meeting cycle, shame on us. This is a gift. So I'm okay with I'm okay with 3 years. I think 5 is even a stretch. I don't think we have to have settlement of what we're going to do with the 25 grand, but accepting the lot and the gift, I think, can be done quickly. I don't recall the invasive species discussion, so I guess I'll have to lean, Cindy, on your recollection and what the applicant said. But yeah, I don't recall that. If there were,
I think that's based off of the site walk that we did of around this area. I had a chat. I cannot for the life of me remember the gentleman's name, but he was very very helpful that day. Anyways, he was discussing that, and I think we brought it up as a result in the public hearing to discuss further.
Yeah, it was memorialized, or at least written in, I think the response. There was one document we received late in the process, response to Rebecca Werner's email or something to that effect, and it was in there. I can find the date on it.
Yeah, I mean, if the applicant's good with that, I'm okay with having that, and then having a 3 year period sounds practical.
I'd agree with the 3 year too. Any other board member comments?
I've made a note for the 3 years and to update the condition in the clean version when we jump over there to removal of all invasives prior to conveyance.
Great, thank you, Alec.
Absolutely. Okay, so a quick note, and I do want to give kudos to the applicant. So it's not shown here in the red lines because this was worked out predominantly between myself and Attorney Schneider. But as some of you on the board are aware, there's a battle raging on Beacon Hill to ban certain chemicals in the use of rodenticides, as they are having a pretty significant effect on other animal populations. While Boxborough itself has not passed a townwide ban via home rule petition, we have passed a ban just on public property, specifically town property. The applicant was willing to consider a condition here that would predominantly remove these chemicals for use, and only in the cases of an emergency use. So I did want to give kudos there. There was no reason the applicant absolutely had to, by any means, accept this condition. Frankly, had they fought it, they probably would have won. But I do want to give kudos to them. I felt this was important. I know many Boxborough residents are actively engaged in this fight. So thank you to them for being willing to include this language in condition 14.
Wait, before you scroll on, given the the dense technical language here. I was, so Alec, can you just, is this the language that the state has? I know Boxborough's adopted a policy, but the select board for town property, as you said, so it just, this is dense language to have in a decision. I would kind of like to see it either footnoted or an exhibit or something like that. It's just, it's just kind of confusing, well, not confusing, but it's dense. So I was hoping to take it out of the decision and have it as an add-on. And then also the definition of AR, I think it should be anticoagulant rodenticide is what the AR actually stands for.
Yeah, so this language is taken directly from the town of Lincoln's conservation director, who has been working on the front lines and worked with several large campus developments in the form of orders of conditions. So this language was predominantly taken from them, and then additional language added at the end to provide the emergency availability to the applicant in case of an outbreak. We did thin this out significantly from what was first given to us, so I would recommend retaining it in its current form. I know that it's a little wordy and technical, but from the standpoint of someone who would potentially be enforcing this someday, in this case, I do appreciate the technicality that's provided to it.
Okay, can you fix the definition to be anticoagulant rodenticide before the AR? There, yeah, right there. Thanks.
I don't know if this is the time to, maybe the time to give my personal comments is when we get to the clean version, but you tell me where you want them, because I have one specific to this number 14. So I'll keep it quick, but I see that there's a clause in here that if there's a Beacon Hill like event here in Little Boxborough, that we have the right to go out there and do whatever we want. Can there be a plan that gets put in front of the town planner or the building inspector or something prior to? Just like, we're going to treat for 2 weeks and we're going to, use A, B, and C. I mean, this is a pretty sensitive area here. This is part of, and with a lot of habitat. So I guess it would be nice to know what was going to happen if we're going to go out there and,
I think so. Would that cover your concerns there, Madam Chairperson?
Yeah, I guess it would be nice to understand that it's not going to be a 6-month period of major like chemical usage out there. So, I'm sure that they would never propose something like that, but just to have a better understanding of what would be the recommendation of their professional pest removal contractor.
Absolutely. So yes, this item here would require them to submit a plan of use. So at least a description of the use, timeliness of the use, and the specific chemicals to be employed is how I would require that. I will also notice
you need to specify those items. Product schedule, I guess. Product and schedule.
That would cover the 3 bigs: the type, the time, and the area.
Right. So maybe you want to do the product, comma. I mean, schedule and timeline are similar. So maybe you can just do comma or strike schedule, I guess. Schedule's fine. Yeah. I mean, that's fine. Thank you.
So does the town planner have, the knowledge and ability to, other than being informed? Right, you're not asking him to approve it, or the CONSCOM or the Board of Health.
Well, I don't know who the right person is. I in my notes I wrote the building inspector. I wrote I don't know who the right person would be. I mean, maybe this is in collaboration with CONSCOM. I don't know.
Yeah, short of the conservation agent that we are working to update the job description of, that's still a multi-year process before funding may become available at town meeting to bring someone like that on board. What I do have available to me, though, is an ample network of professionals. As I noted, this condition originated from the town of Lincoln's conservation director, who, as I said, is on the front lines and a real founder in the work that's being done here, especially on campuses of this size and volume.
But again, this is just a plan to be presented to you. Should we identify, review and approval, or review and something? Just a plan.
I do not feel that we would have the authority to review and approve such a plan. As I noted, if the applicant was not willing to include this language, we would not have the standing to require it. Because the town has not passed its home rule petition, if it chooses to bring one forward, we really wouldn't have the teeth to it. That being said, if we do pass a home rule petition or the state passes their own legislation, that would take hold and this condition would be a moot point. Those would automatically be ruled out at that time.
Okay. Can I comment on condition 15?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So I know there was discussion about the gate being left open, and I wanted to go back and just verify, but it seems to me we ought to at least mention that, I think I was going to suggest some language here that at least the police and fire department had reviewed, sorry, I'm just trying to, what condition number is this? Just that the police and fire had reviewed it. Oh, here it is. After consultation with the Boxborough Police and Fire Departments, the traffic gate at the Littleton County Road end or entrance shall be maintained, opened or closed at the applicant's discretion, something to that effect, just to note that we considered it and that they weighed in. I don't know how
in the form of a condition?
As part of the Beaver Brook being maintained as a private road, I thought we should mention the gate here, or, I don't think we mentioned anywhere else. If it's not here, then somewhere.
What about the gate, that they'll keep it open? That
it's at their discretion, but that the police and fire weighed in on it. Because we were asked that by some of the members of the public that it be closed, and I think it's just an important point that we did have it assessed by our public safety officials, and they recommended that the applicant have that discretion. I just thought that was an important point to identify.
If you want to say this is saying it's going to be maintained as a private road, is what the point is, as opposed to a public road. Are we saying that do we want to put a condition in that they're going to maintain the private road, including all the appurtenances or whatever those things are?
Well, the gate was an issue that was raised by the public. I just kind of would like to indicate that we had considered the requests from the public, and our public safety personnel determined it was at the applicant's discretion. I know we're not conditioning it. It just, maybe it's a finding of fact rather than a condition.
Which public?
We got letters from members of the public asking that the gate be kept closed as it had, I guess, at one point in time. And only, folks who had access.
I mean, but others would argue the opposite of, from a safety egress situation.
Right. I'm just saying that the intent here is to indicate that the board made a finding that, it should be at the applicant's discretion, that we're not going to require, and our police and fire have not required that it be one way or the other.
Yeah, we can put that somewhere. It's at their discretion, but I don't know. Is it, like, Chris, to your point? That's why I asked what public. Was it one letter? Was it 10 letters? Because the concern I have is that if you have access to the property, to Beaverbrook Road from Littleton, and that's your point of entrance, have at it. Why do we want to have people coming all the way down
Harvard and
coming all the way down Swanson Road? Like taking traffic off Swanson Road is great in my mind.
I'm just trying to make it part of the record. It's an exhibit somewhere where during the routing process that police and fire were asked about it, and they responded. So I'm just trying to make that part of the record.
Yeah, no, I understand. I guess I'm asking is, do we want to make it their discretion, or do we want to say, no, the gate shall be open, or the gate shall be closed? Like
I think not saying anything implies it's their discretion. It's a private road. They can, they can put a stick in the way or not.
Well, again, I'm raising it because it was raised by, I think, more than one member of the public, and there was history there about it being closed at one point. So it felt germane to me to identify it and somewhere in this decision. I don't know, Alec, if you want to bring up the routing sheets, but I think it was probably in the routing sheets.
I guess what's the applicant's proposal? Maybe I've lost sight of that.
Yeah, do they care?
I believe it's to keep it open. Is that correct, Johanna?
That is correct, Madam Chair. Our position on this was set forth in an October 27th, 2025 letter to the board. It was the last item. And I think what we were trying to convey to the board is that, what we had heard from neighbors was that, people wanted the gate to remain open. And so our intent in keeping the gate open was to be a good neighbor and continue to provide that through access. But, to the extent that the board wants the gate closed, then we'll commit to a condition requiring it to be closed. We were just trying to do the right thing by the neighbors, but if the board has a different view, then we will live with a condition to the contrary of what we had proposed originally.
I don't support closing it. Cindy, if you want to, if you want to sort of comment on that, we're leaving it to the discretion of the property owner. I guess I'm okay. I would, if I were being, asked, what do you want to approve as a planning board member? I would say that to me, that gate should be open, but it doesn't seem to be a point of contention with the applicant. So if you want to leave it to their discretion, okay.
I mean, we can be silent on it. I just know the public seemed to have an interest in it. I'm not gonna, die on this hill. I thought it was useful to note that we had considered it. But if you folks feel that that's not helpful, again, I'm trying to find the routing sheet where police and fire weighed in. I thought that was germane. That's all, and I thought we should identify it.
The police and fire said keep it open.
Again, I was trying to pull up their comments. I believe they said, we're neutral on it. You applicant have the discretion to do what you will.
As long as they could get through it, I don't think they necessarily
right.
Did. Because when it was Cisco gave any police and fire folks access. Like you'd have fire keys to an apartment building or something. If it was up to me, I'd want to keep it open. Just for, why make people go all the way, go 3 miles around to get to that soccer field if they have their kids have a game there or something. And just you make a very long dead end. And that just feels unwise. Like if there was a fire at one of these properties, everyone north of that property would be stranded and wouldn't have a legal road to leave by. So I just feel like it should be open.
Again, I wasn't really opining one way or the other. I just wanted to note, have the finding be made in this as a part of this decision.
Well, we could say that the Beaver Brook Road shall be maintained as a private road with access from both the east and the west.
I'd be better with that than saying.
Yeah, because if we make a gate, then does the gate have to be there, or are they allowed to tear down the gate? We say the gate must be open, or so. Yeah, access is a better vague term.
Yeah, I think it's from a overall planning perspective. I think having that access on both ends, allowing for traffic flow to come from either side, I think it'll relieve traffic on Swanson, and it'll, Chris, all the reasons you gave. And so, yeah, and if at some point in the future there's a public safety reason to close it, then they can come back and go to the planning office or the code enforcement office and discuss it.
Who's they? If somebody were to want it to be closed for, let's say there's an inordinate amount of traffic, maybe that was using it, where would they go? Where would folks go?
it'd go to the property owner, then they'd have to go to the code enforcement officer. I mean, we're saying that it's maintained as a private road with access from two ends. That's what this says.
Okay,
That,
you
I
didn't,
think we're going to address it as site plan too, right, Cindy? Like when we get to a site plan for, like, let's say that happens and that we get they get 3 buildings in and we're seeing crazy traffic patterns that weren't expected. I think on that next site plan, we have an opportunity to talk about that.
well, I'm not sure. I guess that's a question. Does the special permit, if the special permit allows for it to be open, can a site plan decision change that? I don't know. Can we have a caveat in the event that, the board wishes to, traffic becomes an issue and the board wants to reconsider, they'll bring it
I
back
think
up?
Adam told us we can't caveat certain conditions before, but this isn't a condition, or is it? Is this a
Yeah,
condition?
this would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I've opened a can of worms. I don't know. I just thought it was important to.
Well, no, you raised
This is something I brought up a while ago too, and I actually have kind of a different feeling about it just because of the traffic amounts that we see coming down 111 when everything gets rerouted off of 495. It's like a skating rink on 111 when that happens, and it happens quite frequently. And then everybody cuts up Hill Road to get to where they need to be, and we've heard complaints about that. There is a potential. I'm looking at a map right now, that people could reroute off of 495 in Littleton to down this road. So I throw that out because I'm always playing devil's advocate, but it would be nice to be able to control that if it does become a problem. I mean, I've heard the public say keep it open too, and I understand that's flow of traffic and easing up certain areas is a good thing, but it does have potential for a burdensome condition.
There are going to be speed bumps too, though, right? I mean, just to counter, like, that might discourage pass-through traffic.
Added as part of this, is that correct? That
It's somewhere else, yeah.
What's that?
Speed bumps. It's somewhere else. I don't.
Because one of my children's friends has an apartment over there, and boy, that road is huge. There's nothing slowing traffic down, and people just whiz down Swanson Road right now. So, traffic calming's real.
Yeah, that's in here. Where is it, Alec?
I don't remember offhand, but yes, that is included in here. 2 speed bumps. There's also reference to potential traffic signaling upgrades and such throughout the process too.
So 2 speed bumps on Swanson specifically. Go ahead, Johanna.
Condition 7, Madam Chair.
Yeah. Yeah, the speed bumps are
on Beaverbrook Road.
2 speed bumps and speed radar indicators.
Yeah, I thought I saw somewhere where there was radar indicators on Swanson. Oh,
radar indicators on Swanson
and
and bumps
Beaverbrook Road, 2 speed
Beaverbrook.
bumps. Yeah, speed bumps on Beaverbrook, radar signs on Swanson.
Is there any ability to do this? I think we've already talked about this already, and I think that we decided we couldn't do anything on Swanson as far as a speed bump goes.
No, I don't believe we can make any changes directly within the way. However, the indicators could be placed within the abutting land.
Okay, so I guess what I was looking for was maybe a caveat to say it's been evaluated, they can keep them open unless the fire or police chief determined that, because we've often deferred to the public safety officials, unless the public safety officials identify an issue, something to that effect. Can we add that caveat?
Yeah, probably, because I think that's always the case, right?
Right.
Yeah, we can. I'd be okay with saying accept it, or as with access north and south. I don't know what the right words are, but subject to public safety something.
Concerns.
Attorney Costa, I'm going to freeform here and rein me in if I go a little too far.
Stop.
Okay.
That's the free form, not the cleanest of language, but I hope the intent comes through.
How about they may require the applicant close the gate rather than order.
Good on the fly, Alec. Thank you.
Adam, is this one too overreaching, or do you think it's okay?
No, I mean, I think that through you, Madam Chair, I think that the $1 million question with any sort of a condition of this sort is the applicant agreeable, right? Because if the applicant, the concern with conditions that might go too far afield is, will the courts affirm those conditions? Once a decision is filed with the town clerk's office and the 20-day appeal period passes, the decision is beyond challenge. So the issue is, will the condition stand if it were to be challenged? Well, in circumstances where an applicant says, we don't care, we'll open the gate, we'll close the gate, we'll do whatever the police chief wants, it doesn't really matter that much to us, well then by all means go ahead and do it. Because even if I were to tell you that yes, there's some case law out there that says you can't defer substantive decisions to other boards, commissions, committees, departments, officials, etc., again, if the condition isn't challenged, then the condition stands. So I think the real question for the board is, what does Johanna say? And her hand's up, so she's probably going to answer that.
I will
Go ahead,
allow
Attorney
my
Steiner.
thank you. I'll allow my client to jump in if they feel otherwise, but I do have an issue just sort of generally with conditions that Adam has described, which are inappropriate and illegal delegation to either the future or to another decision-making authority. And I think that this proposed language absolutely runs afoul of it. I also think it's totally unnecessary, because if the chief of police or the fire department decides that they think that we need to do something differently, they'll come and tell us, and that doesn't need to be specified in this board's decision. But Russ can overrule me if you want to, Russ.
Go ahead, Russ.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to point out a couple of things, and we did discuss this in detail in a previous hearing, and we did have a traffic engineer count cars for a week out there, and I believe the average traffic was 27 trips per day that actually traveled there under the current economic development. And I respect that we're proposing new economic development, and there could be a condition in the future that none of us foresee. So I think the comment by Rich talking about site plan review is appropriate. I do want to just mention two items. I personally spoke with both the fire chief and the police chief on this issue, and they refused to take a position on this. They did remain neutral and indicated it was really an arena that they shouldn't step into. However, they were very clear to point out that if there is an injury or a police call on Beaverbrook Road, the first call from the Boxborough dispatch is to the Littleton dispatcher, seeing if there's a cruiser in the area of Littleton County Road. And I confirmed this with town managers of both communities, that the first responder is a fire ambulance or police vehicle in the closest proximity. So when the gate was closed previously, every single fire, police vehicle and rescue vehicle in Harvard, Littleton, and Boxborough had a fob to get through the gate. Now that's great. They all have a fob, but then the fobs go missing, the cars get repaired, sometimes and they need to maintain that. We don't inspect the cars. So, you know, to maintain that opportunity for a first responder from another community is just another burdensome issue. The other piece of it I just want to throw out there is we're trying to do economic development here, and we have a restaurant. We have customers that come through Littleton to use the restaurant. With the gate there, we lose customers. So I just want to make those points for the board to make these decisions, and they can move on. Like we said from the beginning, we'll put it up or down, whichever the board prefers.
I would take out what you added, Alec. Thank you for trying to do it. That's my opinion. Thank you for doing it on the fly. I would leave it access north and south end of the road. as is. If there's a public safety issue, the chief of police will talk to Russell Dion. Let's just stop. Like, let's just get it out. It's north and south, and let's move on. That's my vote.
I kind of agree there. I was starting to think of the whole we're overthinking this. Like, if the police chief comes says like we need to use your road, like you're doing that. Like I don't think we need to necessarily spell it out.
Okay, any other board members?
If the applicant's uncomfortable with the language, I'm okay taking it out. I just wanted to note that we had acknowledged it. Thanks.
Okay, moving on. What's our next one, Alec?
Condition 18, Attorney Costa inserted to address questions on the self-certification provided following filing with the MEPA office. So just for reference, that is included here. And then moving on to condition 20, let's see. I believe, Cindy, you had asked if there was something additional we could include here, referencing Decision 101, Condition 3.13C. Johanna noted the 61 findings and emphasized that they should not conflict with the obligations made herein. Adam then made revisions based on this discussion. So I'll pause here in case the applicant, who I see has their hand raised, wants to ask any questions or make any amendments here, if you're comfortable with their doing so, Madam Chairperson.
Go ahead, Johanna.
Thank you. By and large, we don't have an issue with this condition, but I would respectfully request that the board consider a minor modification to the last two lines where it says shall incorporate traffic mitigation measures consistent with or in excess of DOT section 61 findings. And I would love it if we could change it to shall incorporate traffic mitigation measures not inconsistent with DOT section 61 findings. So take out consistent and take out in excess of. Ultimately, many of the roadways that are affected by, all the roadways that are affected by the section 61 findings are under the control of DOT. And DOT has spoken in terms of what they want to see as mitigation. I know that there were some questions raised by one or more board members about the timing, for example, of performance of some of the mitigation commitments to the state. And ultimately, I think we're in the position where we've got to defer to what DOT wants on their roads. So again, I think that, the language I'm suggesting, which again is shall incorporate traffic mitigation measures not inconsistent with DOT's 2024 section 61 findings, gives the board the opportunity to impose additional conditions, but those conditions cannot be inconsistent with what Mass DOT is already requiring us to do on their roadways.
Joanna, can you remind me when, I think there's some point in time when there's going to be an update traffic assessment. Is it after building 600 or upon completion of the project? Like, when would another assessment be determined as to how much traffic is actually coming through there?
So the timing, if we want to scroll up to condition number 17, when we added some additional language in here at Alex's request, just to clarify that the decision was accurately reciting the section 61 findings, one of the things that we added were these parentheticals that came from the section 61 findings. Cindy, I'm not sure if this is addressing your question, but this is the timing that's coming from those findings.
Okay, so when the park is complete, for instance, I guess I'm just trying to get a handle, on the total number of trips. Let's say, business is good and you got all your tenants in there and everything is moving. When again would a traffic study be done to determine whether or not more some of this mitigation would actually have to happen? That's what I'm trying to get.
I mean, the section 61 findings for MIPA were based on a full build out condition. So those section 61 findings are based on our assumptions of, the park being fully built out consistent with this master plan.
Okay, so everything happens after the building 600 is complete?
The building 600 seems to be the linchpin for
Okay,
what
okay.
DOT wants us to do.
Yeah, okay. I'm satisfied with that. Thanks.
Madam Chairperson, that is the complete extent of conditions and notations. If it would please the board, what I would recommend is that the board now engage in deliberation on the length of the development period. Where we left the discussion at your last meeting was a 15 and a 17.5 year window. I recommend you start that now while I incorporate the changes we've made here to your clean version. And when we get to the end of that discussion, hopefully I will have made all the changes, if that's acceptable to you, unless you want to pause for anything else.
Yeah, Alec, I have additional comments, but I made them on the clean version. I wasn't trying to dig into those. They're pretty simple and straightforward, but I have a few like changes in like text and whatnot that I didn't want to jump into. I just wanted to hear all the feedback that you guys got back and forth. So I appreciate you guys going back and forth and describing the changes that has happened while we were on break.
Yep.
So I don't know if you want to kind of run through those quickly, and then maybe you can go into your next change.
That sounds good. I've jumped over to the clean version. If you want to give me your changes, I'll make those and then go back while you're discussing to incorporate the others.
Okay. So page 10 of 19. Keep going.
Apologies, everybody. If you see me pause like that, it's because my screen sometimes goes blank on me, so I can't see.
Just a point of order, Rebecca. So I think this is a good approach. I have a couple comments as well. So if as we go through yours, I guess it would be appropriate for us all to chime in wherever.
Yeah, let's do it instead of going back and forth. I think that's a great idea, Rich. Thanks. So I'm looking at below B, traffic flow and safety, where your cursor is. The next paragraph, it says E, the 2025 master plan. Thank you. I don't know what that was left over from. And then the last bullet in that section, underneath that section, it says implementation of a robust transportation demand management program. Robust kind of is one of those words where I'm like, it's very subjective. I don't know what that means. So I would say strike robust. It's just an implementation of a transportation demand management. Cindy, did you have a comment about that?
I have a comment on that section when you're done.
Oh, yeah. Okay, go ahead, because I've got a little bit more to go before my next one.
Yeah, the first paragraph under B, traffic flow and safety, it says the 2025 master plan will result in fewer peak hour trips and represents a net reduction in traffic relative to the 2001 project. And I still take exception with that because my understanding is total trips are actually increasing, but a net reduction in peak trips is true. So the next line, this next sentence, and represents a net reduction in traffic relative to the 2001 project. It's really net reduction in peak trip, but not a net reduction in traffic. It's actually an increase in traffic relative to the 2001 project. So I just want that.
Well, you mean the part that's been completed? They're probably referring to the project being the. Yeah, okay, I guess I'm not. I think I know what you're saying.
Right. So total number of trips went from 10,000 to 12,000, but the peak hour trips is reducing. So I just want that clarified.
Do you have a suggestion for how this
is it a net reduction from the approved OSCD, or is that the same thing that is peak hour trips? It's an increase from what exists now, right? Is that what you're saying, or is it you're tying it back to the OSCD approval?
All right, if you delete the word traffic, then I think right where your cursor is, it's basically saying the same. Yes.
So you
That
did,
makes-
yeah, so you wanted clarification that it specifically is a reduction in the peak hour trips, not all hour trips.
Not total trips, correct. Okay, that works. All right.
I don't have another comment until 16, so like, jump in, folks.
Yeah, in this section, the last, additionally, in response to the board concerns, I would, regarding potential speeding on park roadways, the applicant has offered to provide the following traffic calming. So it's really speeding on, well, I guess the concern was speeding on the park. I thought it was also Swanson Road. But I see where you've addressed it down below. So I'm okay with the language. You forget it. I'm good.
Maybe just scroll gently through this, Alec, until the next comment. I don't have anything until 17.
In C, I have something in C. I would think what's missing in here, and it's mentioned elsewhere, but what's missing, it's mentioned above, it's mentioned somewhere else in this, but I would add to the bottom, because this is adequacy of utilities and other public services. I would add to the bottom, additionally, the applicant has been allocated 40,000 gallons per day of water from the waterline expansion project under the intermunicipal agreement between Littleton and the town. 40,000 GPD of water from the water line expansion project under the intermunicipal agreement between Littleton and the town. Yeah.
I think is there no need to address refuse, wastes, drainage, and retention? I think we mentioned stormwater will be dealt with. I guess that's fine. Under E right there, this reference to it's my right version. Sorry. Conservation plan, right at the middle of that paragraph. That's the first time, and I think the only time we use that term. So I don't know what it was. Should want it lowercase conservation plan, or is
I would keep it. I mean, when you refer to a plan, you typically keep it capitalized.
But is there a conservation plan? It's not the conservation is there a plan? I know there's lots of things happening with the conservation management permit and the grasslands management plan, but is there a capital C conservation plan?
Madam Chairperson, if I could,
Yes,
Johanna,
please.
I believe that was included in your original application and therefore is an exhibit of this decision, correct?
I believe that's the case, Alec. Thank you.
Okay, so there's an exhibit entitled conservation plan?
Yes. It would be within the application submitted. I believe it was John Rockwood was the one presenting and speaking to that.
Okay. Then the reference to caps and the Suasco story, I mean, those should probably be footnoted, but it's not a big deal. Where they are, what they are, and where they came from. So on F, did you already go to F? Yeah.
Right there.
Sorry, I'm still looking at my version. So again, there's a reference to the number of trips. Second paragraph under F, by incorporating and reducing trip generation over the prior development proposal. Again, that's not accurate. It's peak trip generation, but not trip generation. Can you stop there for a sec? So the calendar, this 140 days, the 18 days, has that all been, was that new? Was that vetted or new, or was that always in there?
So the 140 days is in reference to a discussion had directly between the applicant and the Harvard Conservation Trust. And the 18 months is my recommendation for a certified and approved conservation restriction. Those can frequently take upwards of a year.
Okay.
Alec, I'm sorry. I apologize.
That's okay. Tell me what page you need me to jump back to.
It looks like it's page 14. Where are we now?
Not that far.
It's item G.
I don't have an item G.
Potential fiscal impact. It's just before additional findings.
On page too far.
The amounts are master plan will result in property tax revenues 1.8 and 1.4 annually. I would just put in parentheses based on $2025 or $2025. Yep.
Put a space after annually. Please. Thank you, Alec.
Sorry about that.
Nope, not a problem.
Sorry, did you add on condition 6 the thing about the invasives? Again, I'm looking at my.
I have not had a chance to import those over.
Okay.
As the board has a discussion around development period, I'll integrate those things.
Okay, number 8. Did you already go past that?
Right here.
8. So attachment A. So you didn't include that, right, with this draft, but I think the board needs to see that, and I had a question about it. Right, we made some edits to attachment A, as I recall. That's a dimensional schedule.
Yeah, I'll have to pull that up separately. Bear with me. Right, found it. I'm going to just bring it up. All right, and it is here.
Okay, so we added some footnotes to that, right?
Yes, footnote 1, a 100-foot buffer not to be disturbed, and footnote 2, a maximum building height of 45 feet, not to exceed 300 feet in elevation at lot 800.
Can we change the wording of the 300 feet elevation? I realized, and I'm going to note this during our discussion about number 9, but that it should say like sea level elevation, and not so it's not read as a 300-foot high building in some way. So I would just say sea level topographical elevation or something like that.
What is it, NAVD, usually?
Or if you want to put on a technical term, I just wanted to clarify that, Cindy, because it's like, it could be read differently to me when I went through it.
Right, and when we reference it, we need to clean that reference up in the document.
Is that sufficient, what's written there?
Can't read it.
It says sea level topography or topographical.
Mean
But if
sea
you have a
level
better term, mean sea level, there you go. There you go. She's got it better than I do. Mean
or,
sea
or
level
NAVD.
elevation.
I'm not a surveyor.
Yeah, you could do either, but mean sea level might be more layman.
Okay. So I have another question on this chart, which when I went back to compare this chart to the original one, there was a couple more footnotes on the original one, one of which was front setback. We're showing 25 feet, but there was an additional footnote on the last version. Let me see if I can quote it for you. Increase of 1 foot for every building height above 25 feet per original, for the original. So I was curious whether Campanelli was aware of that, whether it's moot because the building is going to be set back beyond that setback anyway, or am I bringing up something new? The original footnote said, of course, I'm not going to be able to find it. Okay, sideways. All right. On the 25-foot front yard setback, footnote 2 said 25 feet plus 1 foot for each foot that the building height exceeds 25 feet. So if it's, what are we talking, 45-foot building, that would make it a 40, that would add 20 feet. So I didn't know whether Campanelli knew this, was aware of it, or would be willing to add that footnote, or there's a reason not to.
I don't think it is something that we had considered when we put together the dimensional schedule that we submitted to the board, which we have up right now.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Russ.
Just for a matter of clarification, Cindy, is that what you're reading? Is that for the front yard setback alone? Is that what I heard you say?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm looking at attachment A from, this might have been, I don't know if I have it for both recent decisions, but this was, might have been 9701, but I think it was for 0101 too.
I mean, the way the master plan is laid out, and I know it's a conceptual schematic plan and subject to be reviewed with a tenant, I would have no problem whatsoever accepting that language because it would take a 25-foot setback as being proposed. If it was a maximum height building, it would make it 45 feet.
Right.
Is my math correct? We're adding 20 feet.
Correct.
Yeah. And I believe what we have done in the park and what I know what we've done on the master plan is to show all of the parking commencing 20 feet off the road. And then we have a row of parking before we get to a building, and the buildings are set back from the road. And that would be fine for 600. The parking infrastructure is already there. 700, it makes sense to do that. And then 800, we have a, the sewer discharge field there. So I have no objection to putting that footnote in. We can comply to that, and that's not a hardship of any sort. The master plan accommodates it.
So, Madam Chairperson, I do feel obligated to remind the applicant that per the Boxborough zoning bylaw, parking cannot be included in the front yard setback. So you would need to account for parking areas outside that setback as well. Whereas your statement just now relied on being able to place your parking in that.
Oh, well, and that's I guess I'm surprised, and I'm not sure we studied it in depth.
Yeah, I don't think it was our intention to include that footnote in this table.
Sorry.
Is it referring to the building being set back or front yard setback being increased?
Under the dimensionals table, it said front yard setback. The original sort of the zoning bylaw was 50 feet, but the requested modification was 25 feet with the footnote 2. And footnote 2 again said 25 feet plus 1 foot for each foot that the building height exceeds 25 feet. So to your math, Russ, that would make it 45 feet for a, wait, now I'm getting myself confused. 25 feet plus 1 foot exceeding 25. So you're asking for 45 feet, right? So add 20 feet. So 45-foot setback.
Yeah. I mean, given what Alec just mentioned, it would become a hardship to do that if we can't put parking in the setback. In spirit of what you're saying, from a building perspective, we would be in agreement that a building could be set back, but I'd want to keep the parking at the 25-foot setback from the road, which is the way the park is built today, and that's a nice green space with walkways and trees between the curb lines of the parking area with shade trees. And then but to make the area from the road to the development area 45 feet just pushes everything further back into the site. I'd rather keep it closer to the road. So if I guess at that point I wouldn't want to agree to that, given the fact that Alec has pointed out that parking cannot be set within the front yard setback.
Again, I guess the intent is to not have too tall a building too close to the road, right? I mean, that's the intent of this, is you don't want a 45-foot building 25 feet.
And I'm in agreement with you on the building. So
Right.
perhaps, is there a way we could put a footnote that said for the front yard setback for building only would be increased 1 foot for every height of the building above 25 feet, exclusive of parking?
Can you read that? It seems tiny. I can't see.
Yeah, sorry, it
It's
expands
okay.
after. In cases where buildings exceed 25 feet in building height, building setbacks from the front yard shall further increase at a rate of 1 foot per building height over 25 feet. So it reads that commensurate to every foot you go up in building height over 25, your building setback shall further increase by 1 foot from the front yard.
So should the footnote go on front setback, not on building height?
It certainly could. I just happened to tie it to building height in that instance.
Do we have to have a disclaimer for parking? I got confused about whether parking is problematic.
In this case, I've exclusively called out building height, but I defer to the applicant if they want greater protection.
All right. Yeah.
I think we would want it to be explicit that this is exclusive of parking areas. And I also wonder, and Alec, I apologize, I really can't see, but I think that what you read, I don't know if anybody else can see, I can't see this. I think what you read said something about from the front yard, but aren't we really talking about from the front property line? Because we're talking about the width of the front yard, which I think you measure from the front property line to the edge of the building.
Is that a little more legible?
tiny bit. Make me like get super close and squint at you. Everybody forgive me.
Alec, can you just grab the text and make it larger for people? Like,
yes, bear with me.
Like this was not meant for middle-aged lady eyes. I apologize.
Sorry, my screen blacked out on me there again. That better?
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that protects everybody.
I think this is acceptable. Russ, are you all right with this?
I'm fine with the language. Thank you.
Okay.
I just got to make a note for myself here, the amendment date on this, and then I will jump back over to the decision.
Footnote 1, Rebecca, you're good with that? 100-foot buffer not to be disturbed. Is that adequate?
Yeah, because I think we have more wording in the breadth of the decision itself about that.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Alec. We needed that document.
Yep. No, thank you for calling it out. It's a good reminder to myself to bring that over, as well as good to hammer these details out now.
So is that going to be considered attachment A, or are you going to make it an exhibit?
It will be an exhibit titled attachment A. So it will add, if it's not already incorporated in the list of exhibits up above, we'll tack it on at the back, and it'll be titled attachment A.
So there was the one that Campanelli submitted is listed as an exhibit, but not this I don't think this modified one was. So you may have to rename it.
Yes.
Thanks. Okay, we moving on to number 9.
Yeah, I've got a few comments on that.
So the very first sentence, in addition to the modified dimensional regulations, lot 800, can we add or any of its subdivisions? Because if lot 800 got subdivided, would these dimensional requirements still apply? Okay, thanks.
Did you have anything else on this one?
You go ahead. You probably have the same things I do.
So I was going to say, I just needed clarity around the full first bullet point, just to bring, just like we just talked about in the other one. So I was wondering if we add something like no building roof line shall exceed 300 feet in mean sea level elevation. I would write topography map and not just topo map.
Yeah.
So I think we should probably call, let me just get to my, sorry, I've got a few notes on this one, so I got to get to the one yeah, so I said instead of just per the topo map, I should give titles and pages of that document. So I wrote, instead of just topo map, Town of Boxborough topographical map produced by CAI, and I can copy this and paste it to you, send it to you, Alec, if that's easier. But just giving the title of the sheet, right? It's a Boxborough map produced by CAI Technologies. And it's page 5 of the document.
Wasn't it an exhibit?
It is an exhibit, but there's no page number on the thing. And so I just wanted to make sure we are referencing the right plan and section. So if we could put a title on it and a page number on it, that might be helpful. And just really give, you have one partial title for the section, but there was no real reference to a title for the topo map. So I figure if we could reference it by, it's a BXB map produced like by our tech page, then that gives some information. And then I would reference that exhibit if you haven't somewhere else in this thing, because it's a very specific elevation or section and map, I guess. that make sense? Do you want me to send that to you, email that to you?
Yes,
Yeah.
if you email it to
Okay.
me right now, I'll go ahead and I'll include that when I'm in transposing the other edits we made to the red line.
You got it. It's coming your way.
Thank you.
Okay, you should have that in your inbox. And then let's see, I think with the next bullet point, I have, I just wanted to give a little bit more specificity to this. Cindy, you mentioned this in the last footnote, but so maintained in a non-manicured natural state comprised of natural grasses or woodland plantings. Do you want to write that down?
Yes. Can you remind me?
Yep. So maintained, strike with in a non-manicured, natural state comprised of native grasses or woodland plantings.
Can I add something to the end of that sentence?
Yeah.
Can we add to provide wildlife connectivity between the adjacent undeveloped parcels? I said adjacent undeveloped parcels. If that matters. Thanks.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
I don't have anything until 11. So if anybody has anything.
Yeah, just on this, adequate screening shall be provided to hide all rooftop utility units. Can we also say all rooftop mechanicals shall be directed away from residences?
And Cindy, is that it on that one?
Yep.
The last one, do we want to say that? Do we want to limit that right now? So I'm just thinking of facades, and we may want some windows on the side. I mean, they may want and it may actually look better. And there may be some lighting aspects that are important for the building. I
feel like that
is this something
plan thing.
Like, do we want to limit this now today?
This is just lot 800, right?
Yeah, I think so. Is that what lot 100?
Yeah.
Yes, this is lot 800 exclusive, specific.
Can we? So this was a promise made to us, but your point is well heard, Rich. I mean, can we say something? No, before you strike it, but unless it's deemed architecturally to improve the rear facade or something like that. I don't know. Like, just that would give us the ability to look at it from an architectural standpoint. The aesthetic of that back building. Go ahead, Johanna.
I would just point out, and yes, we made that commitment and we're happy to live by it. But as we pointed out when this was discussed at the last meeting, any building on lot 800 or its subdivisions will come before this board during site plan approval. You'll have the opportunity to look at its potential impacts on abutting properties and decide at that time, when you've got a real proposal in front of you, what makes sense architecturally and from, a screening and impact mitigation standpoint. So maybe you don't want this in here at all in order to give everybody that flexibility.
Yeah, that's what I was suggesting. But if like, I'll go either way, like unless deemed an architectural improvement. I also think, it might, from an energy perspective, like I don't know, there's a big hill back there. Like I don't know if there's a whole lot of light getting in there, but it might make sense to have some kind of light capture on the, anyway, I don't want to get into designing the building now. It felt like a limiter. But
Well, if we don't put it in, 10 years from now, if that building gets built, this may have been forgotten. So I kind of like the idea of having it in there.
Yeah, I'd like to keep it too, but I do think giving a little flexibility to the architectural improvements is smart.
Yeah, there could be something we're not thinking of that in 10 years that actually it would really help in the heating of the building if, things I don't understand.
I mean, being somebody who resides in these types of buildings, we're mostly concerned. We want to close all the shades. Like projectors get shown and proprietary information's flowing everywhere. Like, we close all the windows. So anyway, I'm good with this change.
I have comments on number 11. And I'm going to copy and paste this one for you. This came straight out of the commitment letter from Campanelli, and I thought we should probably kind of make the wording match a little bit more to what they stated. Alec, if you're okay with that, I'll send you that too.
Yeah, go ahead. Do you just mind for the record and just for the applicant's sake of hearing?
Oh, yeah.
Just reading that?
Yeah, it's literally verbatim from their letter. So just give me a second to send this to you. I just thought it should pair more with what they actually committed to. So the commitment letter said they were willing to take the following measures. All new created public parking spaces, 5 on lot 600 and 5 on lot 700, once development is realized, will be constructed of Grasscrete. So I think they specifically named buildings and locations. So, and then the second part of that was all tenants will be required to submit a TDM. I put this in transportation demand management, though I think call that out in advance of this section. So maybe we don't need to say that. Similar to TUV, which may include van shared transportation methods as appropriate for the end user's operations. So I copied that straight out of a letter from.
I think we have that above.
Do we have it? Johanna, you can maybe bring clarity to that.
I believe we do have it. And I also think that, again, I don't think we substantively have a problem, but I do think that for clarity in the decision, we don't want to be lumping a TDM plan in with public parking spaces and how those are going.
Totally agreed. Yeah, I was thinking of them as two separate items. If it's covered someplace, it just, this number 11, I guess, it doesn't speak to lot 600 specifically. So, I
believe it does. It says lot 6.2.
6.2. Yeah, I'm seeing that now. That just, I had it as 600 on my note here. Okay.
And I believe that condition 17, Rebecca, has the language about the TDM plan.
Okay. Madam Chairperson, I will keep an eye out for that email when you transition to the development period, and I will incorporate everything up to the TDM.
Okay, I think that their wording for the TDM plan is a bit different, though. That's why I guess I flagged it. I think that does start to cover it, but maybe just cross-reference it against that verbiage that they sent over to us, if you don't mind. Similar to, I'm just going back and rereading it.
Oh, it's in 17, I think.
Yeah, I guess it does cover it. It just says it a little bit differently. Okay.
I believe at least one board member noted they had comments on condition 14 beyond what we had discussed and beyond what I was going to bring over.
I have one on 13.
13, go ahead.
Yeah. What we did for TUV did not have the rodenticides in it, but it did say chemical pesticides and fertilizers. And the reason I clarify that is that that's insect related. It's not, it wouldn't be necessarily the rodent issue that we've been discussing here, but it's more about putting like chemical treatments on your lawn and gardens.
So this would be specifically in outdoor spaces.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Johanna, I assume you want the ability to use pesticides in the restaurant if you need it, correct?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest issue, and I think this, Alec, you're right, that's driving our comment here, and, you know, and candidly, the information that we added to 14, which is that there is an active restaurant on this site, and, you know, we need the ability to make sure that for reasons of public health and safety, you know, we're controlling any real rodent problems that show up there.
So the 13 and 14 conflict, or they're okay?
Those are
different things.
Yep.
Okay.
Did somebody have a comment on 14? I think we might have covered it.
No,
Yeah, I think we covered it.
I don't.
You do or you don't, Rich?
I don't. Sorry.
All right.
Okay.
16, where are we? The one that begins with at the time of site plan approval, that one?
Yep.
Okay. This was a little, I thought, you know, this could be fleshed out a little bit better. I didn't know what, it just seemed loosely worded, the sustainable practices with an intent to implement carbon neutral construction measures. You mean, you know, do we want to talk about sustainable practices for both operations, such as water conservation, energy efficiency, and then carbon neutral construction measures such as XYZ? I wasn't quite, I think we were trying to get at some sustainability here. I just wanted to make this a little more clear.
Yeah, so that was my compromise, because I think it's at least making a commitment to ensuring that we do get sustainable practice in site plan, and having some kind of something to stick to, I guess, because that's kind of the direction Foxborough's going, the world's going. I think this covers it. I mean, it talks about construction. I mean, that could be inside, outside, Cindy.
But does it include things like water conservation and
I think that would be any and all sustainable practice could be considered, you know, an effort to do this, right? I don't sense that the applicant was too comfortable with obligating themselves to specific practices at this time. And Johanna, correct me if I'm wrong. I just not knowing what the building was going to be, but this was their commitment to say that they are going to, you know, practice sustainably when construction comes.
Yeah, Rebecca, that's exactly right. I think we are perfectly comfortable with this condition as worded. I think going any further than that at master plan, as opposed to taking it up at site plan, we would have issues with.
Okay. Okay.
Anyone have anything else?
So 17, we said was all the timing of all that was what tied to building 600 completion, right?
Yes.
Do we want to do on 22, prior to issuance of the first building permit, the decision shall be recorded? Do we want to like address like notwithstanding other provisions, notwithstanding any other provision outlined elsewhere in this prior to the first? Like I thought isn't there that section that calls out when this gets recorded? Is there another place, Alec, where we talk about when this gets recorded? And this is, I was reading as a fail safe that, like, notwithstanding that, this thing's getting recorded before the first building permit.
Typically, I include it as condition number 1, but in this case, we've back-ended it because there's so many other elements at play here.
When is the first trigger up above? Sorry, is it upon approval of this or filing of the, or
I believe within 60 days is
after receiving
the first
all final
item.
permits and approvals required for this master plan? So receiving all final permits and approvals, is that us approving this?
Yes, that is the approval, and then the lapse of the appeal period. Once that date
So
hits on
record
day
at the registry
21.
of declaration. So here's the record. Oh, this is the conservation.
Yes, this is just the declaration of restriction.
And does this? Okay, so you put it at 22. All right, I'm okay.
Can I ask a couple more questions? I promise I'll be brief. In the original decision 9701, there was this public pedestrian easement from Beaverbrook Road to the town-owned Pettingill land. Is that easement still in place and valid?
To the best of my knowledge, I've not seen any document that eradicated that easement. And I don't believe anything in this decision eradicates it either.
Well, that was part of my question to Adam, is if we're modifying, do we need to call out things? But if this was in the original decision, can we assume that it's still valid?
Adam, do you want to speak to that?
Yes, I mean, you can, but if there's concern even amongst board members, given the history that you've got with this particular project and the multiple sessions of the public hearing, then this may be an instance where you want to be clearer. Again, my concern with amendments always is future enforcers, typically your building commissioner or a building inspector, referring back to the original or prior amendments of the original decision to ensure that everything is captured. So it's rare to restate everything in prior permits as part of an amendment, but if there are particular aspects of the amendment that are concerning to the board or especially confusing, then it may make sense to add some clarity.
So if this could be a standalone condition, the owner commits or continues to provide a public pedestrian easement from Beaverbrook Road to the town-owned Pettingill land. Pettingill land. We're not saying it right.
Remind me the language, Cindy. It's the
owner shall provide or has provided a public pedestrian easement from Beaverbrook Road to the town-owned Pettingill land.
And you want to proof my spelling?
Sorry, I should just capital Pettingel. At least that's how it was in the other document. One more question about Beaverbrook Road. I think in one of the site plan decisions prior, there was limitation of construction access from the north end of Beaverbrook Road.
Before we move off of 22, I think
sorry.
we have a little bit of a doubling up of some wording here. So if you read that whole sentence, I think we need to, we've got easement.
Easement twice. Provide, what did I say? Provide, the owner provide a public pedestrian easement from Beaverbrook Road to the town-owned Pettingill land.
So strike the public for public pedestrian. A, public pedestrian easement. Go ahead, Cindy.
Yeah, that looks
From
right.
Beaverbrook, okay.
From Beaverbrook Road to the town-owned Penn land, yeah. And then my next question was construction access from Littleton County Road, given the sensitivity, ecological sensitivity. I don't know if we would do this on a site plan approval basis, or if we've limited in the past construction access from Littleton County Road.
I would recommend to the board that matters of construction access be taken up on a case-by-case basis for site plan approval. Because following the construction of any building, especially if there's multiple buildings on lot 800, but done over time, you may decide that you want it approached a different way.
Okay, I mean, that was a comment I think we received, so that's why I wanted to bring it up.
Noting that Russ has his hand up here. Russ, did you have something?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman, Chairperson. Item number 22, just a matter of clarification. The easement is from Swanson Road to the town-owned land, not Beaverbrook Road. It's in place. It's been in place for 20 years. It's not going anywhere. But it's not from Beaverbrook Road.
Okay, I pulled that language from decision 9701, so.
Yeah, it wasn't in place at that time, right?
Yeah, thank you for clarifying.
And if I can just jump in, we may not need this condition at all. I'm sorry, like while you've been talking about this, I did pull up an analysis of title documents that I've done, and that easement is memorialized in a record document that went on record in August of 2000.
Does it also happen to say in perpetuity yet?
I don't know, but a copy of the recorded easement was submitted to the planning board back in 2000.
So there's already an easement established.
Right. It's on record already.
Well, I guess I defer to Adam if he thinks there's good practice to keep it in, or it sounds like it's there, so we don't need to, but.
Adam?
So I'd need to see the easement itself. I mean, if there's an easement already on record with the Registry of Deeds, that is a conveyance of an easement in perpetuity, and there is no mechanism for rescinding or retracting that conveyance, then the condition's unnecessary. But I don't have the document in front of me. My sense is that that's probably quite accurate, but I don't have the document in front of me, so I can't say for certain.
Thank you. In the interest of moving this forward, do we have an opposition to including this without a proper review of that document?
Not for me, Madam Chair. I don't know who that's directed to, but
it's honestly to the applicant, I would say, just trying to keep this moving forward, instead of delaying it by a review of easement document.
I don't think we have we're already doing it, right? So we don't have a problem keeping it in. I just, am one for trying to minimize the number of unnecessary conditions.
Okay. So it looks like we've reached the end of our document. Cindy, did you have anything else to add?
You really want to ask me. The parking, I was looking at the items under relief granted from the old thing. And while I think somewhere we have said now that the parking will be 2 spaces per 1,000 feet. I think that's an exhibit attachment A, the dimensional schedule. Should we also note that we're reducing the size of the parking spaces from 10 by 20 to 9 by 18? Or is that standard parking now?
You said that's in attachment A.
The reduction is 2 to the 1,000, but not the size of the spaces.
And then remind me what the reduced size is.
9 feet by 18 instead of 10 by 20, but I was just looking at to see where, do we still require 10 by 20? I guess we do.
And memorialized.
Yeah, I can't find, oh yeah, right, we do require 10 by 20, so yeah, let's have it in there, thanks.
I don't have any opposition to a smaller parking space.
Yeah.
Don't blame us for dented doors.
Yep, burner.
Try tucking at Logan. That's what you get.
It wouldn't be the first time.
Is there any trigger for when the conservation management permit? I know that you're working with Natural Heritage, and they talk about, you know, ongoing discussions. Can we put in a tickler for when we'll get an update on the status of the permit, or some kind of hook, just so we can understand where that's at, if that's appropriate?
Russ, did you have a comment there?
Sure. There is no progress on the permit because the permit is complete and it was issued back in 2001 or 2, and that permit remains in place today. There is a maintenance program which is being put together in conjunction with John Rockwood and Natural Heritage, and we've been through this with the Conscom. Natural Heritage has proprietary reasons where they don't put maintenance plans out into the public domain. As soon as we submit it to the planning board, it needs to go into the public domain, and Natural Heritage has greatly requested that we don't do that. I can give you the progress. The progress is that the final draft is into Natural Heritage, and I think there's 1 or 2 edits that came back, and I think that plan will be finalized, and we'll start, after the winter, we'll start putting that maintenance in place. We've talked with Liz Markowitz of the Conscom, and she understands how proprietary this information is. And Natural Heritage has offered to issue a redacted maintenance plan to the town of Boxborough, but they did say the document will be redacted quite a bit. So I'm just telling you what the director of Natural Heritage, Jesse Liddick, told Liz and myself.
Yeah, and Madam Chairperson, I will echo the sentiment from the applicant. I've had my own tango with airports specifically and Mass Natural Heritage, and they are incredibly reluctant to release these documents. A redacted version or a letter of certification from the director would both be sufficient. And at the time those are provided to the Conservation Commission, I will share them back with the Planning Board.
Yeah, just when it's implemented, that's all I'd be interested in. Thank you.
Okay, so it sounds like we're ready to talk about timeline now, Alec.
Absolutely. If it pleases the board, I will take down my screen share so I can make these manipulations in the background. For a reminder to the board, the 2 options on the table at the close of your last meeting were 15 years from the lapse of the appeal period on this decision, or 17.5 years, that being calculated as 5 year or 15 years plus a 2.5 year period in which the applicant did not have to record the decision, and then it would trigger from there. So in either case, my recommendation of the board is let's just do this as a clean date, as either 15 years or 17.5 years from the lapse of this appeals period, or another number if you as a team should choose. But I will turn my audio and video off unless I hear my name so that I can make these edits in the background.
Alec. Board discussion.
I guess, was the applicant amenable to one and not amenable to the other?
I think we should have this discussion first, Chris.
Okay.
It's entirely up to the board.
I was just thinking it might render the discussion moot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, I'm sorry, Chris, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm good.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, my perspective is, I know there's a tendency to want to do it for less. And this is maybe Adam can help here with the question, Rebecca, but in my mind, we're doing something here that makes sense for the town based on all of the considerations that are put on the table in exchange for the open space, different things that are relaxed. And in my mind, like if that takes 10 years to develop, it takes 10 years. If it takes 20 years to develop, it takes 20 years. If it takes 30 years to develop, it takes 30 years. And I know people get uncomfortable with longer periods of time, but we're agreeing that this is better than the current zoning bylaw. And in theory, under the current zoning bylaw, somebody could develop this property 50 years from now. Obviously, we could change the zoning bylaw, but that doesn't happen a lot. I mean, we've had an office park for 30 some odd years. So I'm really not as concerned about the length of time. And I guess my question would be, so the development period is, pick a time, 15 years. If we get to the 16th year and it's not completed and the applicant comes back and says, hey, we've got 2 more buildings we want to finish, at that point, are they pursuing those 2 buildings under the standard bylaw? Is that the correct read of that, Adam? Because we did approve this special permit and it has a development period within it, but once that development period's expired, I assume they can go off and develop by right however they want. Am I reading it right?
Well, so through you, Madam Chair,
Yes, please.
It's a complicated question because in some respects, yes, or maybe, but in other respects, it sort of depends upon what has yet to be developed and what rights might exist on that remainder land, so to speak, notwithstanding the issuance of the prior special permit. So I mentioned before, one of the first questions that was asked tonight was about conveyance of a lot or a tract or a parcel within the development plan to the town or to a nonprofit organization, or the placement of a restriction, and whether that parcel can still be counted toward the quote-unquote development scheme for purposes of calculations and zoning compliance. And my answer was yes, because even though that's conveyed away, it is still part of the property that is subject to the overarching special permit. And so it can be conveyed away, it can be in separate ownership, so long as it is not developed in a manner that would be contradictory to the requirements of the special permit. So if a master special permit of sorts, like the one here, issues, and 75% of the land gets developed, and what's left over is, let's say, a remaining land area of 5 acres. It may not be as simple as saying that a new developer, a new owner, a new proponent could come forward to do something that they would be able to do elsewhere on a 5-acre tract in Boxborough by right, because that 5-acre tract is still part of the original development scheme and the land that is subject to the special permit. And depending upon what's been done elsewhere on the property under that special permit, the property as a whole, there may be no development rights left, and it may be that that property can't be developed. Let's talk about the total square footage that we discussed before. I forget the exact number now, but 440,
something like that. Yeah,
6,000, right? So if 446,000 square feet is developed on 70% of the land area that we're dealing with here as part of this development proposal, meaning that 30% of the land area is left over, and then that remaining 30% land area is transferred to some other owner, developer, and they come forward attempting to do something by right on that 30% land area, your answer is going to be no. That 30% land area counted toward the development scheme, and the total max build out was based upon that land area. So it's complicated when these master special permits issue. These open space residential development permits or commercial development permits, because what can be done by right in the future may depend upon what gets done right now or in the years to come under the permit that you're about to grant, or earlier iterations of the permit. So the general rule with special permits, remember, is when boards are not specific, there's nothing in Chapter 40A, Section 9, which is the only section of the Zoning Act that addresses special permits. There's nothing that provides an end date for utilization of a special permit. The statute says that use has to commence within the period prescribed by the bylaw, which can be up to 3 years under a 2016 amendment. It used to be 2 years. I believe your bylaw still has it at 2 years. And the law says that once use is commenced or construction gets underway pursuant to the special permit, that construction can continue in perpetuity until all rights that are available under that special permit are exercised. And there's case law. There's a case out of Bellingham from about 20 years ago where there was a special permit granted for 5 buildings. The developer constructed the first 2 or 3 buildings, disappeared for 19 years, and came back and began constructing building number 4. And new neighbors, new residents, new municipal officials said, "What's going on? You can't do that." And the case got litigated. And what did the court say? The court said you absolutely can do that because that special permit was effective in perpetuity. It ran with the land, and the rights that vested once the construction was commenced within the initial 2-year period, those rights existed in perpetuity and could be exercised 19 years later. And so what you're discussing in the context of this master special permit is doing something that the law itself, state law, statute, doesn't do, which is putting an end date. And case law says you can do that. You have that authority. But it's really left to your discretion what that end date ought to be. Should it be 5 years? Should it be 15 years? Should it be 30 years? It all depends upon the scope of the project or the development proposal, the complexity, concerns you might have about what construction looks like in 10 years versus in 20 years versus in 30 years.
Okay, thank you. So you sort of addressed, well, I guess it leaves open the question of what could happen at the end of the development period, right? It kind of depends, is kind of what I'm hearing. I guess my perspective is I was okay with the 20 years. I'm okay with 15. I'm not sure the applicant is, so I can't take us back to Chris's point. My concern is that if we put too tight of a time window on it, we have a good thing, right? And we have what seems to be a very good partner here in the applicant. If you can just kind of look at the things that have been done and what's been demonstrated so far. I'd hate to put a time window on this that's maybe tighter than the economic cycles would allow or provide, and then force them to have to pursue a development that may be less than desirable just to meet the time window. So I'm supportive of the 17 and a half years if that's what the option is on the table right now. Thanks.
Other board members? I think there's 2 options on the table right now. So, Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, so I guess mirroring what Rich was saying, I was fine with 20 years before, so I understand that these things take significant time. It just looking at this process in itself takes significant time, so I can understand being a little bit wary of having to come back and repeat this process to re-amend sooner than later. So wanting to give themselves as much leeway as possible. I prefer Campanelli's general build style of not just build and hope somebody comes, but wait until you have someone who's actually going to use it, and just leave it an open field up until that, so the building is there just in time. I like that model better. I think that's better for the town. That's better for the open space. So I'm perfectly fine with, so if the 2 options we're looking at right now, 15 or 17.5, I'm fine with the longer one. So.
Mark, Cindy?
Are those the 2 options then that we have before us, 17 and 20?
Yeah, that's where we left it last
17.
time, 17 and a half. And
I'm good with either. If the applicant,
I'm sorry, 17 and a half and 15, Mark.
So
that's what we discussed last time.
Okay, so 20 isn't on the table, Chris. And so 17 and a half is. And so I would go for the longer of the two.
Cindy?
Yeah, I mean, I'll reiterate, I'm in favor of the shorter 15-year. I was really pushing initially for 10, based on what a typical special permit application in Boxborough is 2 years. The applicant can certainly come back and amend. They did that after the permit, after the permit expired the last time, they came back and got an amendment for one building. I think that went very smoothly. So I feel, you know, as a assurance also to the abutters that they won't have a perennial construction site. I mean, 15 years is a very long time already. I would really like to hold it at that and not extend beyond. So I'd support the 15 years. And market conditions sure can change, and I'd like the planning board to be able to reassess at that time.
Thanks. And I am going to echo pretty much what Cindy said and what I've said a couple times before. I originally wanted 10 on this as well, but I'm willing to go to 15. That was what the original agreement was, and I don't see any reason to deviate from the original agreement. And yes, you can always come back and ask for extension. You don't have to go through this entire process again. That is what they did last time, and they were granted that 5-year period, which got them up to the 20 that they're asking for now. So I am definitely in alignment on 15 or less.
Well, there's two components to this. There's the build out phase, the build out period, and then the other part of it is when does the clock start ticking? So let's talk about that part.
I think it's from the expiration of the appeal periods. Right?
Okay, so in both instances then.
Correct. Yeah, because
All right, so we put that one to bed then. That's good. So
yeah, the moving start line, I could sense the trepidation about that in general. So
I'm good with either, whichever. I mean, I'm pretty sure the only difference we're talking here now is 2 years, 2.5 years.
yeah.
I don't think 2.5 years in the grand scheme of things makes a heck of a big difference. So I don't think the construction period is interminable, because there's no way the construction is going to be continuous from one date from all of those years. But I think it does allow the applicant to find the best tenant. I mean, that's really what we want them to find the best tenant. I mean, so far they've found good tenants, and so I don't want to tie their hands needlessly, and I don't see the benefit. I do not see the benefit by saying hurry it up. I just don't see it. So I'm gonna vote for the 17-year period. I guess we should vote on this at some point so that we kind of get it out there, get it done.
Okay, folks, you want to put this to a vote? The period? I mean, this is the last sticking point that I'm hearing.
Do we want to get thoughts from the applicant before we vote?
We can. I think we've heard them already, Chris, but thoughts from the applicant.
Thank you. And you're right, Rebecca, you have heard this from us. This is a significant undertaking for Campanelli. We have invested and will continue to invest a tremendous amount of resources into this park. And we have been and will continue to be good stewards of it. We are very wary of the economic cycles, and we are very wary of, as some of the board members have pointed out, putting ourselves in a situation where we've got to hustle up and, because we're running out of time and don't necessarily have, a year, as we've just been with this board on this amendment, to to extend it down the road. So our preference based on the amount of investment and based on, the benefits that this proposal is providing, we're looking for 20 years. We understand that's not what's currently on the table, but we do think that a 20-year period is what's necessary to justify our continued investment and the investment of our, JV partners and lenders and other folks who are also putting resources into this over time. So the longer the period, certainly the better for us.
Thank you, Johanna. Okay, again, is the board ready to go to a vote on this?
What are we voting on? Point of order?
On the period, the timeline.
Okay, and if we don't reach what do we need to have a majority on the timeline or a super majority on the timeline?
I think we need a majority, but Alec, can you please bring clarity to that?
So I'm going to let Adam speak to this because I see him unmuting himself here.
Adam, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is sort of a discussion and a vote before the vote. So to issue a special permit, as you know, requires a supermajority vote. Any preceding motion to agree or achieve consensus on findings of fact or specific conditions really only requires a majority vote because those are informal consensus building actions. It's the ultimate vote that really matters. Be mindful, however, that if there's a 3-2 vote, for example, let's say, just to use the example that's before you, agreeing to a 15-year construction period, meaning that two members of your 5-member board voted against that, it sort of begs the question, okay, when the ultimate decision is now voted upon that is going to incorporate that 15-year period versus something less or something more, are those two no votes going to be no votes as well on the final decision because they didn't get their way on the construction period? And that's when it does ultimately matter because the applicant needs either 4 or 5 votes for the special permit to issue. But any preceding vote is really realistically by simple majority.
Did make a
That
motion.
answer?
Can I sorry. Go ahead.
Make a motion to move forward with the 17.5-year version.
I'll second that.
Discussion?
Can I understand again that 17.5 years would begin at the end of the appeal period, which is 20 days after the decision is filed with the town clerk?
That's correct. We file a decision with the town clerk. It's stamped in. On day 21, the appeals period is considered to have lapsed.
So it's like a month and a half-ish, depending on when this decision's done. Am I right?
Depending on if approved tonight, this decision is practically ready to go. I just got to slap a signature page on it. Unless Rebecca has any major travel planned in the next 24 hours, I imagine we could probably have this ready to go for her within the week.
It does need a thorough review, reading, matching up all the exhibits and all that. So I wouldn't, rush it.
That's why I added 2 weeks.
Yeah.
In terms of discussion, I guess, the applicant did ask for 20 years. So this is a reduction from that. And I know there was a discussion around 15 years from first permit, no more than 20. It was getting a little bit confusing. This is a good thing for this town. And we're talking about 2.5 years, which are, it's still a reduction from what they wanted. 20 years honestly would be fine. 15 would be fine, but 17.5, I think it's a halfway point. It appeases, it provides a little extra appeasement to the applicant, and it reflects on the fact that we do want this to happen sooner rather than later. So I think overall, when you take everything into consideration, I think giving them the extra 2.5 years. Only taking away 2.5 years from their original proposal is reasonable.
Chris.
Move that.
Yeah, from a similar angle. So they were originally asking for 20. Part of the board is not comfortable with a long time, and the longest they were comfortable with is 15. So 17 and a half is splitting the difference in between. We tried to split the difference with different like floating starting times, which got a little confusing and made me nervous on like exactly how do you count from where? So completely agreed that a fixed date makes a lot more sense. I was okay with 20. Part of the board wasn't, was thinking more 15. So 17 and a half, that splits the difference. So, and I think a good compromise is when nobody's really that happy, but they can live with what it is.
Well, I was asking for 10 and now we're going to 17.5. So I'm not sure that that's super balanced, but okay. Cindy, did you have any other comments to make there?
Dumb question, but what's 17 and a half years from now? Are we talking? I assume that's
Yeah.
calendar days, correct? Not business days. So what's that? 20 years would be 2046. So I'm sure we're all going to be living in Boxborough and still partying up at the end of this period. But what is the date? Is it 2043? Summertime in 2043? Is that January plus 6?
It is July 10th of 2043.
July 2043.
From today.
Yeah. Okay, I just wanted to know what that data point was.
Versus July 10th of 20, or January 10th of 2041, something like that.
Any other comments, deliberation? Okay, roll call as I see you. Mark White.
White eye.
Chris Dowdy.
Dowdy, aye.
Rich Guzzardi.
Guzzardi, yes.
Cindy Markowitz.
This is just on the development period, correct?
Yes.
Markowitz, nay.
And Werner, nay. Okay. So what's next steps with that?
Madam Chairperson, I have made notes to this. So effectively, I wrote your decision in just now as a condition. So it's the new condition number 2. Additionally, I have made.
Can you share, Alex?
Yes. Additionally, I have made the insertions as described. So I'll just briefly affirm those for everybody here. They were all within the body of your conditions. So the new condition 2, the commercial development period shall commence at the lapse of the appeals period to this decision and will extend to the 17-year and 6-month anniversary. So that gives it the flexibility. If it takes us 10 days or 14 days to issue this, that'll track whatever the date is of the
probably from said date at the end. Of said date, 17-year and 6-month anniversary of said date. It's a little, maybe there's a better way to say it, but.
Condition number 3, Adam was kind enough to send this over directly. So we have his exact language, as previously discussed, that your decision relies on the application that was submitted and the assertions and representations made by the applicant throughout the public hearing process. Let's see the numbers jump, but so prior to conveyance, so this is specific to lot 100. Prior to conveyance, the applicant shall remove all invasive species from the lot. And then it goes on to say that should the aforementioned prerequisites, basically, if we don't get to June 30th, 2029, if we don't get this done, the applicant shall submit to the board an amendment for proposed lot 100. The way I calculated June 30th, 2029, that's 3 years out, but then also after the immediately following annual town meeting. So that gets you to the turn of the fiscal year into FY 2030 or FY 30. This is the language transposed over that Chairperson Werner spoke to, specifically calling out the map name and the page number. This is the language carried over from Chairperson Werner related to the Grass Creek spaces. These are the revisions we made to the rodenticides condition, as well as the revisions we made to the Beaverbrook Road condition. And finally, the conditions we made to item 22. The items in blue only reflect the changes we made in the red line version that I have now imported over. The changes you made earlier to the clean version were already incorporated. You saw those going in. This is just for me to demonstrate to you that I transposed them over.
So will Rebecca have a chance to reread this whole thing once you've cleaned it up?
Yes, as always, my my recommended motion would be, well, whether you're moving to approve or deny the application, you would then follow it up with a motion authorizing the chairperson to sign the decision on behalf of the board. And so until the chairperson is satisfied that the decision is complete, she does not have to sign it.
Okay.
Okay. So next step, do we need to close the hearing and then vote, or vote?
Adam, I will leave this to your discretion, how you want them to handle these votes, what votes you want them to take, and what order in.
Sure, through you, Madam Chair. So, so yes, generally speaking, the proper sequence is to vote first to close the public hearing, which requires a majority vote, and then to vote on the decision with that caveat that Alex suggested, that it be subject to him finalizing the adjustments you've been shown and whatever final review the chair or vice chair might want to undertake. Having said that, I do represent some boards that anticipate, and maybe this isn't the case here because there has been a comprehensive discussion over multiple meetings, but that anticipate that there will be some deliberation once there's a motion and a second to grant or deny the special permit, particularly to grant it. That there will be some discussion, and that discussion may require responses, feedback, answers, information from the applicant. If that's the case, then you have no obligation to close the public hearing before you vote. You can vote, and your vote effectively operates to close the public hearing at once. So it's really up to you whether you close the hearing prior to voting or not. With sometimes more contentious proceedings, live proceedings with a room full of residents or neighbors or abutters, sometimes there's some prudence in closing the public hearing because it provides for fewer interruptions. But I don't see that being the case here. So it's entirely up to you whether you wish to close the hearing first or not.
Okay. If the board is in agreement, I mean, I think that we're probably at a point where we can close the hearing. Unless anybody objects to that.
No, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing for the Campanelli 2025 master plan proposal.
I'll second that.
Okay, moved by Cindy and seconded by Rich. Thank you. And then, Alec, do you want to provide your motion again for the vote?
We have to vote on the.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Yes. Okay. As I see you, I don't see any of you right now. So hold on. Rich Gazzardi.
Gazzardi, aye.
Mark White.
White eye.
Chris Dowdy.
Dowdy, aye.
Cindy Markowitz.
Markowitz, aye.
And Werner, aye. Thank you. Okay. Now, would you like to make that motion again or suggest that motion again, Alec, unless someone's prepared to do it?
Again, I'll defer to Attorney Costa what the most appropriate language would be here. I want to make sure we get this one right.
Okay.
Muted.
Indeed, I am. So again, through you, Madam Chair, I think the appropriate motion would be a motion to grant the special permit if that's the desire, or to deny the special permit. I don't want to presume that I know the board's the board's inclination, but to grant or deny the special permit. And if it's going to be a grant of the special permit, then it would be with the findings and conditions contained in the document that's been presented as amended.
So I'll motion that the board grant the special permit decision. I'm sorry, I'll move to that the planning board grant the special permit with the conditions and findings that are specified in the decision.
Second.
And moved by Rich and seconded by Chris. As I see you, Rich
Hold
Gazzardi.
on, I got a
Oh,
question.
sorry, discussion.
Yeah. Did we add the
I'm
language about compliance with all the terms and conditions of the plan that we talked about early on? Did we add that?
Yes, let me bring that up real quick. Bear with me.
Sorry, guys, it's been 3 hours into this.
No, it's okay. I should have asked for discussion.
So that is condition number 3. That's the language that Adam
that's
sent
what he
over
said.
to us.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Let me know when you're ready for me to take the screen down.
Is that the end of the sentence? An approval of the board, period?
Yes. Yes, that's the complete condition.
Okay, thanks.
Any other discussion? Okay, we got a vote on the table here. As I see you, Chris Dowdy,
WI.
Rich Gazzardi,
Gazzardi, aye.
Mark White,
White eye.
Cindy Markowitz,
Markowitz, aye.
and Werner, aye. Okay, congratulations, folks.
Madam
For
Chair.
all your time and effort.
Thank you all so very much. It's been a long road. We really appreciate it. The project is better for your input.
Thank you. Adam?
Madam Chair, I might suggest one further motion, and it just goes hand in hand with what we had discussed a moment ago, and that is a motion to authorize the chair or whomever else to review and confirm that the decision is in final form, ready for filing with the town clerk's office, and then maybe even authorize the chair or another member to sign it on behalf of the board if that is an added convenience as opposed to having all members come into town hall to sign it. That's something that boards do with some frequency these days, especially where these meetings are being conducted by Zoom.
So I'll motion that the board authorize chairperson Rebecca Werner to review the document in its finalization and to sign on behalf of the planning board.
Second.
By Rich and seconded by Mark White. As I see you, Cindy Markowitz.
Markowitz, aye.
I didn't ask for discussion again. Did
Okay.
anybody have any discussion?
It's all good.
Okay. Cindy Markowitz, aye. Rich Gazzardi, you're next.
Yep, Gazzardi, aye.
Mark White
White eye.
and Chris Dowdy
WI.
and Werner, aye. Okay. Terrific. Thank you all very much. Okay.
I'd like to express thank you to the board as well. I know Johanna said it on my behalf, but thank you for your hard work over the past months of putting this together, and I appreciate that. And I look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you, Russell.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Russell.
Russ.
Okay. Wow.
Okay. Moving on to minutes. Let's go back to the minutes, Alec.
Madam Chairperson,
Yes,
can
sir.
we release Attorney Costa for the evening?
Yes, please, Adam. Thank you so much for your time. Happy New Year.
You're welcome. Same to you. See you soon.
Thank you,
Take
Adam.
care.
Thank you, Adam.
Bye.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Adam.
Okay. Hopefully we can move. We've got a fair amount still left on our agenda.
After we do minutes, Madam Chairperson, do you want to raise the discussion on your next meeting that we had talked about? Perhaps some of these things.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Thank you. So you're going to pull up the meeting minutes?
Yes, indeed. So you, prior to starting the hearing, you approved the October 20th minutes. We are going to move those October 14th minutes to the next meeting. So I will pull up October 30th.
Apologize for that, guys. Okay. Any comments on the meeting minutes of October 30th?
No.
Yeah, I got a couple, of course.
Go ahead, Cindy.
Yeah. Starting from the top, again, Attorney Costa on line 9 is special land use council, not town council. If that matters, I think we should keep that distinction. So this set of minutes, after line 63, it really just jumped to, there was really no summary of the discussion. I don't know how the other board members felt, but I thought maybe a list of topics discussed, because it really just jumped from the beginning to the end. So that's kind of a general question. If folks, I felt like we should have at least identified some of the discussion topics. My line 84 about the budget, the line that says legal expenses for technical expertise, she does not want to reduce the budget for it should be consulting line, not legal line, I think. And then again, on line 135, he suggested reducing the consulting, not legal line. And then 143, following up on that thread at the end of the sentence, applicants paying for certain legal, and then I would insert or technical items.
43.
143?
No, there's
No.
143.
This is every time I download these to I get a different, let's see. Okay, right there, we're 95. Yeah, we're way off. Sorry. It's 95. Legal and technical items. Sorry. That's all I got.
Anybody else? Okay, I'd entertain a motion to approve the October 30th, 2025 meeting minutes as amended.
So moved. Or Mark moved it. I'll second it.
Mark did not move it. You did.
Okay.
Mark.
I'll keep my motion.
Do we have a second? Okay, so moved by Rich and seconded by Mark.
I just added the word as amended. So
yeah, I said that.
Okay.
Okay. So any discussion? Nope. So as I see you, Cindy Markowitz.
Markowitz, aye.
Rich Gazzardi.
Gazzardi, aye.
Alec Wade. Oh God, not Alec. Mark White. I'm getting tired here. I'm sorry, you guys.
Alec, aye. I mean, Mark, aye.
Chris Dowdy.
Dowdy,
you guys are jumping around a little bit on the screen for me. And Werner, aye. Okay. Next one's Alec.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. November 17th, 2025.
Okay, anybody have comments on the November 17th meeting minutes?
Yeah, I do. Let's see. Let me see how many lines off I am here. The paragraph that begins with Sue Carter of Places. Yeah, that's your line 51. Yeah, same line. Okay, line 58, it should say a berm. I think of, my question is that a berm of wood logs along the tree line has been removed? Right.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and then so add a berm of wood logs. And then on line 60, she noted that it said berm pile. I would just change that to wood pile, need to be removed. And then hopefully yours, line 126, Ms. Carter stated that the tail lengths, I think it's supposed to be tailings.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
And Mr. Wade's name is spelled wrong on line 280. I think that's all I got.
Okay. Anybody else?
No.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes of 11/17/2025.
So moved.
We got a second?
Second.
Okay, moved by Rich and seconded by Chris. As I see you, Chris Dowdy,
Dowdy, aye.
Cindy Markowitz,
Mark, what's that?
Rich Gazzardi,
Gazzardi, aye.
Mark White. It's like Mark stepped away. So Werner, aye.
Did he drop? I can't tell.
No,
Embers
he's
pointed at
stepped
it.
away.
Oh,
Okay.
there it is. Yeah, I see it.
Next one's November 24th, executive session.
That's correct. And just for note, these are not minutes of the executive session. These are simply the minutes of you entering into executive session. Those minutes will be approved at your next executive session.
Any comments on this, folks?
None.
Nope.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the November 24th, 2025 executive session meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved by Rich and seconded by Chris. As I see you, Chris Dowdy,
Dowdy, aye.
Cindy Markowitz,
Mark, what's that?
Rich Gazzardi,
Gazzardi, aye.
Mark White,
He probably would abstain because he was.
and Werner, aye. So December 1st?
Yes, December 1st.
Any comments on December 1st?
I had the same comment that there was no mention of the items that were discussed once we got the Beaverbrook hearing open, but we didn't add any the last time, so I'll just let it be.
I didn't have any comments on this.
Chris?
Nope. Good here.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the December 1st, 2025 meeting minutes.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Rich, and who's going to second?
Second.
And seconded by Cindy. So as I see you, Chris Dowdy,
Dowdy, aye.
Rich Gazzardi,
Gazzardi, aye.
Mark White,
When I,
Cindy Markowitz,
Mark, what's that?
and Werner, aye. All right. Let's skip ahead to the discussion of the January 21st meeting. So we had a TBD in our calendar for the 21st of January. I asked Alec to keep this on the agenda so that we could talk about whether or not we want to hold that. My feeling was we've been pretty quiet over November and December, and maybe it would be beneficial to the board to hold that meeting. I'm very glad that we got this last application off of our plate because I didn't know if that would spill over. But some of this might be able to be taken up at that point. And I thought it might be a really good opportunity for us to discuss kind of future goals for the board, goals, articles, whatever, if we want to use it as a session for that. But I wanted to throw it out to the board to see if we still want to hold that.
When's the date, Rebecca? I'm sorry.
January 21st.
The Wednesday.
Yeah, it was held on that date because of MLK Day.
Oh, yeah. I'm good with that. I think that's actually a good idea because if we need a day, like if we don't have any applications in front of us and we have a continuation of the other application, then I agree. I think we need a day to talk about goals and future articles because warrants are going to be opening and closing here pretty soon.
Mm-hmm. Chris, Cindy, Mark, thoughts?
I'm good with it.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
It's on my calendar. I assume I'll be there.
Okay, excellent. So keep that meeting, Alec.
And that's
Alec,
the only other meeting for the month, correct?
It is.
That's correct. Madam Chairperson, so with that in mind, I have one item under Planner's Report that I do think bears discussing briefly. And the only pressing item that may require your attention tonight, and absolutely could not wait if you want to provide feedback, is specifically the ZBA routing sheet for 555 Liberty Square Road.
Great, thank you for minimizing that. So go ahead on the planner's report then. What do you need to report for us?
As many of you are probably aware, on Thursday night, the Fire Station Building Committee made a decision to move forward with 984 Mass Ave and the adjoining properties for their consideration of a potential fire station location. As the board will remember, your January 5th meeting was canceled and the public hearing with said property owner and applicant was continued to February 2nd, which is still being held in your calendar. My recommendation to the board at this time is that we issue an extension of said of said hearing until your second meeting in March. That would specifically put it after the special town meeting and a potential ballot vote to follow, at which point, if the article was successful at the town meeting and then the ballot vote was successful, the application itself would become a moot point. In the interim, myself, Sue Carter, Attorney Costa, and the applicant's team would temporarily pause all work until we see the results of the public process play out. But that way, neither side is spending further money on the application until this is first resolved. Madam Chairperson and the board, are you willing to entertain such an extension?
Sounds like a man.
Yeah.
Sorry, Rich, what did you say? I'm sorry.
I said, I'm sorry if I muffled my hand over my mouth. I mean, it sounds like it makes sense.
Yeah.
Like why spend time discussing something if there's going to be a different, as long as the applicant's okay with that, makes sense to me.
Yeah, if this is their plan B or plan C, like let plan A play out first.
Any other comments?
Do we have a request in writing from the applicant to do this?
No, I wanted to get a temperature from the board first, and then I'll speak to them this week ahead of your January 21st meeting. We'll get a written document in place if the board's amenable. You'll vote on it at your next meeting.
I'm amenable.
Yeah, because formally they should request the extension. Okay.
Yes, that is correct. Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments? All right, Alec, sounds like you have some direction there. Yeah?
Absolutely.
Okay, terrific.
Okay.
Go ahead. Did you have more?
Would the board like to review briefly the application for 555 Liberty Square Road special permit?
Board members?
Is somebody looking for our opinion?
The Zoning Board of Appeals has a public hearing scheduled for tomorrow night. It is not a robust application. It's very simple, but I think it bears this board at least knowing that this is going forward and understanding kind of the implications that comes with the application.
I mean, he's my neighbor, so I should recuse anyway.
That's correct. Yes, if you are in a butter, you should recuse yourself from the item.
The only comment I have is that I think it needs to be brought to the ZBA's attention that this will trigger the outdoor lighting bylaw for special permits. I think it's section 6.4.8. So all that means is that lighting will need to be dark sky compliant.
If I guess I didn't see that. So if it's not too much time, Alec, just understanding what the implications are here might be helpful, but I don't want to.
I think it's basically bumping up from the 900 square feet to 944 square feet. That's what I gleaned out of it, Alec, right?
Yes. So your former board member, actually long time and multiple time board member, Kathleen Forst has actually found a way to maneuver our zoning bylaw to get around get around sounds like an odd term to use, but to circumvent the 900 square foot limitation on accessory dwelling units. And that's specifically your table of uses allows for conversion of single family dwellings to two family dwellings by special permit in the ag res district. And that would allow for greater than 900 square feet. So Kathy Vorse is actually putting this to the test right now. At a previous meeting, she had spoke to the board about the item, noted to the board that, she had been before the building department. Her potential ADU was going to be too large. But this section has existed in your bylaw for decades now. I actually prepared my planner's report and sent it off to the ZBA earlier tonight. But it's in her case a very effective methodology. This is an available option via the zoning bylaw. It does not apply to all zoning districts like the protected use accessory dwelling unit bylaw does. But I wanted to note this for you. In speaking with the building department, to our recollection, we haven't had anyone come in since the last time we spoke, but we've had 5 people come in since passage of the ADU bylaw. And to date, none of those applications have moved forward because of either the septic constraints or more commonly the size constraints, often paired with the septic constraints. So I wanted to make the board aware of this. Chairperson Werner, I have made a note that the board provides the feedback. This will or may trigger the outdoor lighting bylaw, section 6.4.8. I will share that with the Zoning Board of Appeals first thing in the morning. But if the board wants to provide any additional feedback, I encourage you to do so now.
I think it will trigger it, but Cindy, go ahead.
Yeah, I just was curious about parking. I'm looking up the parking requirements. So residential uses, including single family, two family, multifamily, it's 2 spaces per dwelling. So would this be considered now requiring 4 parking spaces because it's a 2 family dwelling? And is that something that the ZBA needs to look at? Or I didn't see any parking provisions in the just in the items that were provided.
I will note that in the letter, and I will request the Zoning Board of Appeals render a decision on whether 4 spaces are required as per the section.
Yeah, that's 6.1.6 parking schedule.
I just want to raise one issue with this is that we were led to understand when we adopted the most recent version of the ADU bylaw, after having the year prior gotten the town to agree to our own ADU bylaw that allowed the larger, I think it was 1,200 square feet, we were under the impression that the state would not allow us to increase that. But the reality of it is the state, so we could have gone forward adopting the language of the ADU bylaw as it was given to us by the state, but we could have allowed up to 1,200 square feet if we wanted to. That we got some bad info there saying.
My apologies, Mark. I have to push back on that.
Okay.
The board made a conscious decision at the time of passage to stick rigidly to the language the state provided. However, there was a discussion of, maybe we could get something larger. I said at the last meeting that Kathy came before the board that I have exact experience now in communities that have approved or gotten attorney general approval. But at the time, it was a conscious decision by the board, at least in the first pass, to stay rigidly to the state requirements.
Okay, I'll stand corrected then. But I guess that my understanding was we couldn't do it, and not that we shouldn't do it.
We didn't know at the time.
We didn't.
Right?
So again, we all need to understand that we could very easily walk in the next town meeting and amend the ADU bylaw to allow up to X number of square feet, which is where we kind of takes us back to where we started or where we left off. That's all.
Put it on the list.
Yeah, put on the list.
Yeah, we'll talk about that on the 21st.
Yeah.
Good. All right. What else can we go home now?
Yeah, I think that's it, unless there's more discussion about that. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, moved by Mark and seconded by Cindy.
Were we supposed to get an enclave update? Sorry.
Do you want to do an enclave update before you close, Madam Chairperson?
Yeah, we can
Sure.
go ahead and do an enclave update.
It's brief. We received the documentation we were expecting from the homeowners association. It's been included in your packet here. The building commissioner and Sue Carter have already begun speaking about the materials. I expect to have a meeting with them mid next week. If I can line the scheduling up, I'll aim for before your meeting on the 21st, but with the holiday, no guarantee. And I'll have more to report after that discussion. But all along, the intent has been for them to convene to evaluate which of those items are directly related to the bond. And then, depending on the results of that, we might even invite the HOA to come out and join us for a site walk to look at those items and then report back to you.
Thanks, Alec.
So I'm sorry, what's the timeline for this?
I expect next week to have a meeting with Sue Carter and the building commissioner, who are evaluating it from a civil engineering and time of application, as well as a building code perspective. We'll convene that meeting, go over which of those items on the list are pertinent to the bond, referencing it against the bond documents, and then we'll bring that information back to you. And then shortly thereafter, there will be a site visit that we're going to conduct to evaluate those items.
Okay, so no action needed on our part for a bit still.
No, not at this week. Perhaps next week at the earliest, but I wouldn't expect it necessarily with the holiday.
Okay.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second on the table. So as I see you, Chris.
Dowdy, aye.
Rich.
Gazzardi, aye.
Mark.
But I.
Cindy.
Mark, what's I?
And Werner, aye. All right. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you on the 21st.
Good